joining me online. Just few clarifications I'll give you. One is that I will be giving you the answer to the two questions I had asked you a day before yesterday. So we will be giving an answer to you for that. In case you have written an answer, some of you have been sharing it with me. When you get a response from me, like when I write the answer or I will give you the answer, then it means that your answer is not exactly up to the mark. So I'm not trying to be harsh to you. ऑलराइट आप उसको ऐसे मानिएगा मेरी आदत डिस्करेज करने की नहीं होती तो मैं आपको शुरुआत के एक दो आंसर्स में कभी नहीं बोलता कि ये खराब है या गलत है मैं कहता हूँ मैं आंसर दूंगा तो तुम देख लेना तो उसका मतलब तुम समझ जाना अगली बार से कि क्या मैं क्या मीन कर रहा हूँ ऑलराइट दैट इफ समटाइम्स द आंसर इज नॉट अप टू द मार्क I tell you that you know I'll give you the answer or I'll tell you that later. So today I will be giving you those answers. In fact, one part of the answer that why India did not grow very well between 66 to 80, we will be starting the class with that. And I will be formatting the answer for you as I cover the discussion. Like I'll debate with you and then I will format that how many words you should have written for what and how you should have written or programmed your answer. Because answer writing will be about three things. Always keep it in mind. Most important in your answer writing will be content. Without good content, in any case, you are not getting marked well. So the most important thing will be what kind of content are you presenting to the examiner. The second important thing in your answer writing will be your structuring. What should come first and what should come later. All right. So again, you will have to be careful that you are not writing things haphazardly. And the third thing in your answer writing will be your expressions. Are you sounding accusatory? Are you sounding solution oriented? Are you using the right word as the right choice? How many words did you use to express yourself? Like if you had to write a 150 word answer, did you write a 150 word answer? Or did you make it 200 words? And so on. So all those are your expressions. Mind you, one thing that many of you will have to forget or unlearn is writing pages. जैसे कॉलेज में कोई एग्जाम में आता था ना सवाल तो हम वर्ड पकड़ते हैं अच्छा जैसे किसी ने सवाल पूछ लिया इवैल्यूएट ग्रीन रिवॉल्यूशंस इम्पैक्ट ऑन इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ इन इंडिया तो हम पकड़ते हैं ग्रीन रिवॉल्यूशन इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ अब मैं तुम्हें सब बात बताऊंगा मुझे क्या क्या पता है एंड देन आई गो अहेड एंड आई विल राइट 7-8 पेजेस ऑन ग्रीन रिवॉल्यूशन नाउ यूपीएससी गिव्स यू नो सच पॉसिबिलिटी if they ask you a question the questions are very pinpointed and that's my job to train you which I'm trying to start off with. A, the questions will be pinpointed. B, they won't give you more than 250 words, 275 words maximum to write your answer. Even if it is a 20 mark question, you are not expected to write more than 250 to 300 words. Not expected to because you don't have time to do more than that. Think of it. Around 250 marks is what you have to write for. Ideally, you should not be writing more than 15 words for 1 mark. क्योंकि 250 नंबर का पेपर लिख रहे हो इफ यू आर राइटिंग 15 वर्ड्स फॉर 1 मार्क then you are writing close to 3500 to 4000 words in 3 hours. That's the limit that you can reach. I'm talking about writing 20 words per minute after thinking the answer. Now that's superlative if you can achieve that. And believe me, we don't. So we remain slightly below that. So normally we end up writing 2800 words, 3000 words, 3200 words, out of which 2500 words are very sensible and 700-800 words are our wish. वो सब हम लिखते हैं तुम जानना चाहते थे जानो मैं बताता हूँ तुम्हें all that I know about my life you know we presented and that's cool. Again I'll train you. The test series and the answer writing sessions will be for that, so I will train you how to go about it, but this is the way to approach it. All right, so we will begin with answer writing. Today I will write the answer for you about why India chose to be a mixed economy, and I will tell you how you could have put it under 150 words and what kind of structuring and so on that you would use. Another thing is that I am just expecting that as I am doing these Indian economy things, this Indian economy discussion takes me around 11 classes, plus minus 1. It can be minus 1, it can be plus 1, because we can't decide exactly, but plus minus 1, 11 classes. So 3 classes are already done. We will have 8 more classes on this, including today's. So I will be starting with micro in the next week, Wednesday or Thursday. I'm informing you in advance so that those of you who are completely new to economics, you pick up the micro NCERT and read through that. All right, if you are struggling anywhere in that NCERT, don't worry, bring it to me, bring it to Sandeep sir. Don't worry about that, but pick it up. It's important. All right, so pick up your micro NCERT and start reading if you are completely new to economics. Otherwise, you don't need anything. I teach you assuming you have done it till 12th standard. All right, that is my assumption while teaching you. And I will do it from very basics. I know for some of you at times it can become boring, but it's better to get bored rather than to get left out. That is my basic idea of teaching you. Okay, so let's get going. Now, I'll first cover with you, yes, yes. That was okay. So good you highlighted it. So understand, the question I'm answering is that when we were writing the second 5-year plan, we had written that private sector was given the responsibility of improving the consumer goods. अच्छा हम लोग गायब हैं यहाँ से अच्छा ये आंसर तो मैं कर सकता हूँ ठीक है done all right so again I'll repeat the question I'm answering the question that while writing the answers writing the story we had written पिछले 5 मिनट का कोई बात नहीं हाँ ठीक है मैं बातचीत ही कर रहा था so 3 to 5 minutes if you have missed in the last 5 minutes don't worry I'll repeat it for you after the class it was mostly about how do you structure your answer and when I write the answer to the question I had given you today I'll teach you how to structure it anyways coming back to my point so when I made you write that private sector was given the responsibility of developing consumer goods industry mostly by small scale industries. But then we saw that actually what happened was that small scale industries did not grow as much and even consumer goods in India were developed by large scale industries. And that was because the raw material shortage was felt even more by the small scale industries. Infrastructure shortage was felt even more by small scale industries. The policy support was not continuous for small scale industries. So that all became the reason why small scale industries did not do as well. All right, that became the reason why small scale industries did not do as good as what the large scale industries could do. So even among private sector, those who were better established from earlier days, जो पहले से अच्छे से स्थापित थे, उन्होंने private sector में भी बड़े scale पे consumer goods produce किया. They could produce consumer goods, like say Wadias producing clothes through Bombay dyeing. All right, for example, one. So they could do that because they were pre-established. But those who were new, those who were producing on a small scale, due to lack of policy support, could not grow as much. All right, that is why, and in fact, that shows to some extent the failure of plan implementation. That we are planning to go by small scale for consumer goods, but the story goes missing, and then we go by large scale on consumer goods also. So in that case, it shows to some extent failure of even planning in those possibilities. Okay. Now what I am taking you through today is the policy variables, policies that kept growth restricted between 1966 to 1980. In case in your exam, if they ever ask you a question, even for reasons of industrial decline, the same reasons will follow. एक 2019 में question था, reasons for decline in industries in India between 1966 to 1980. Reasons will be similar because the reason for structural retrogression between 66 to 80 was because of industrial decline. The agricultural sector was doing pretty decent. We were having green revolution spreading across India. So it was not that agriculture was struggling in India. It was the industries which were actually struggling in India. And to some extent, services were struggling in India. But that story I will tell you gradually. I'll come to that. So let's first cover it one by one. That why did we go for this structural retrogression, mainly that why industries declined badly. So, first of all, we start with reason one, decline of public sector enterprises. Decline of public sector enterprises. We will be discussing those questions today itself, Chanchal. No, don't worry, Divyanshi, it's normal. That's okay. Okay. One thing that one of your friend asks me online, some of you might feel that, sir, I'm not having any doubts. Is that a problem? You know, sometimes you might feel that others' doubts don't strike me. Is that a problem? Just to give you some solace, I can tell you that in my entire student career, and I had a decently long student career starting from something like nursery till PhD, I had 3 doubts in that entire student career. And on 2 of them, the teacher asked me to shut up and sit down. So then I thought I would sort it out myself. So don't worry, we are all different people. Sometimes we don't have a doubt, we take it as they are. Sometimes we have a doubt. Not having a doubt is no problem. Not a problem at all. अगर आपके doubts नहीं आए, अगर आप कोई extra नहीं पढ़ रहे, कोई दिक्कत नहीं है. First thing you need to do, again I repeat, for those of you who might have missed my orientation class or my YouTube videos, cover what we do in the class, cover the notes that I have given you, read them twice up. Once you have done that, then go to the past year questions as I will give you those. I'll give you the past year questions with solutions also. So go through those past year questions, see the solutions. And if after that you have enough time, then go for other things. Also don't forget, UPSC is made up of optional and GS. I know you guys love me a lot, but don't get embroiled in optional so much that you forget there is something called GS to be studied. So ideally what you should do, 2.5 hours of optional class and 2.5 hours to 3 hours maximum. It can be lesser than that also, devoted to optional revision and discussions. And another 3 to 4 hours should be kept for GS discussions. If you are already doing a GS class also, God bless you, because in that case it will mean 2.5 hours of optional class and maybe 3 odd hours of GS class. Then be realistic, keep 5 more hours apart from that to study, maybe 6 maximum. If you study 7 someday, great. I teach you Monday to Friday, so maximize your Saturday and Sunday. You know, use those days for your extra things. But otherwise, try a 5-6 hour schedule. Rather, if you ask me, if I was you, I would have made something like a 45-50 hours week. You know, like I'll study 30 hours on the weekdays when my optional plus GS is going on, and I will study 20 hours on the weekend, 10 hours each. And that will give me a 50 hours frame. In that 50 hours, if I can utilize even 45 hours in a week, I'm going great guns. And I'm telling you this with all conviction of preparation strategy. You know, कि अगर आप 50 घंटे का पहले एक फ्रेमवर्क बनाइए, उस 50 घंटे में से अगर आप 45 घंटे भी पढ़ लेते हैं, 42 घंटे भी पढ़ लेते हैं, तो आप सही जा रहे हैं. आपको चिंता करने की जरूरत नहीं है. Then don't worry that, oh, I'll lose out. Then by December end, January first week, hopefully I should get over with the optionals. Economic services people will have to live with me for another 20 odd days. But once I get over with the optionals, you don't lose the momentum. Then you make it 1.5 hours, 2 hours for optional, where you revise those places where you felt weak. While preparing for optionals, keep it for 1 month, maybe till 10th February, 15th February. And those 2 hours, how will you know how to revise what you were felt weak at? Revise it and write answers on the questions. Send those answers to me, I will be willing to correct. All right, so do it like that. And apart from that, give 7-8 hours, 9 hours to GS. That should be your preparation strategy. How do you give 9 hours to GS in January? 6 hours for revision, 7 hours for revision, and 2-3 hours for writing tests. So maybe you can write 2-3 tests in a week. Apart from that, CSAT should be done on weekend, Saturday, Sunday kind of, 2 hours, 2.5 hours each, regular basis. Make it a routine, a habit. That I will solve CSAT when I don't feel like studying. जब कोई लगता है पढ़ने की इच्छा नहीं हो रही, मन नहीं कर रहा, दिमाग में नहीं जा रहा, तो तब CSAT लेके बैठते हैं. इसके क्वेश्चन सॉल्व करते हैं. CSAT is majorly practice. If you are in practice, the speed will be good. If the speed is good, you will be able to solve things out. So make a plan like that, a framework in your mind, and don't panic apart from this framework. Individually, if you have any different plans, anything else, feel free to discuss it with me. I'm there to help you out. All right, every day I keep some time to talk to my students. I keep some time to reply to your messages. I am actually sorry for replying at those inhuman hours at which I do. But believe me, that is the time when I actually get free from all my classes and research. And then I pick up my Telegram and I start answering. In between, I generally try not seeing the social media. And one last thing, but not the least, आपके लिए टेस्ट सीरीज फ्री है अगले साल. अगर आप प्रीलिम्स क्लियर करते हैं और मेरे स्टूडेंट रहे हैं जो कि आप रहेंगे, तो आपके लिए टेस्ट सीरीज फ्री रहेगी. ऑलराइट, as your prelims get cleared, the test series will be free for you. All my students who clear prelims do not have to pay for test series, whether this year or next year, or next year, or next year. So when you clear prelims, it's not a problem. अभी मेरे ये बोलने पे आपको लग सकता है इतने सारा next year बोल दिया इन्होंने. आपको एक क्विक स्टोरी सुना देता हूँ. मेरे एक बहुत अच्छे स्टूडेंट हैं, वो दिल्ली यूनिवर्सिटी के सेकेंड टॉपर भी रहे हैं, थर्ड टॉपर रादर, श्री राम कॉलेज के प्रोडक्ट भी रहे हैं, अभी IPS ऑफिसर हैं. His first choice was IPS, and he has been one of the better students I have taught. He told me this actually, which I am narrating to you. He said, sir, that in our first, second, third classes, when you used to say your second attempt or your third attempt, I used to think, what is sir saying? I'm not here like others for 2-3 years. I'll qualify in a couple of years, I'll go. And then he took his first attempt, he cleared prelims, mains he did not qualify, missed by around 10-15 marks. Second attempt, he cleared his mains, reached interview, could not qualify, missed again by 10-15 marks, finally the interview, the qualification. And by the time it was his third attempt, I still remember, he had come to me saying, sir, give me a job here. I'm not going to leave this exam because I know I can clear it, but I will make sure that I do something so that my CV gets added, and then maybe I'll plan going abroad in case I don't qualify. The attempt which he said this, he qualified it. And he was in the top 100, so he got his first choice. He's an IPS officer today. I say this story to you for a reason. This exam, I believe life, but this exam at least has a wonderful method of humbling you and then giving you what you want. So be humble. अगर आप humble हैं, तो आपको कोई humiliate नहीं कर सकता. Humiliation उन्हीं की होती है जिनकी अकड़ हो. अगर मेरी अकड़ ही नहीं होगी, कोई humiliate क्या करेंगे? अगर मैं खुद अपना ही मजाक बनाऊंगा, तो आप कैसे बनाएंगे? और आप बनाएं और मैं भी हंसने लगूं कि हाँ भाई बात तो सही है. So ego को conquer करना एक बहुत important aspect है इस exam का. I don't know whether I have been able to reach all of you on this or not, but if I have been able to reach even 10% among you, I am a happy soul. This exam needs it. Conquer your ego, forget that, oh, I have been the best, and I will clear it in one exam. You have been the best, but so have been others. So why be disrespectful about your opponents? And why be disrespectful about the subject? अब सोचिए, believe me, ये किताब हटा लीजिए मेरे सामने से, तो भी ये सारी बातें मैं ऐसे ही बोलूँगा जैसे बोलता हूँ आपसे. क्यों लेकर आता हूँ? Can't be disrespectful to the subject. Who knows if I forget something one day? It will be your loss and my reputation lost. I'm human, got to accept that. I can make mistakes, so let this paper remain in front of me. At least I can look at it in case I feel confused. If I don't, wonderful, which normally I don't. Understand it like that. जो भी मेरा एक वीडियो मैंने आपके साथ शेयर भी किया था on India at 76, तो आप देखेंगे कभी-कभी उस वीडियो में मैं नीचे देख रहा हूँ. तो मेरे बेटे ने बोला कि तुमने लिख के रखा था जो नीचे देख रहे थे. मैं आपसे भी शेयर करता हूँ, आपको आश्चर्य होगा. I had a stopwatch that was running when I was looking down. So I had planned that whole talk to be within 25 minutes. So between talking, I would look into the stopwatch and see how far I have reached and which part of Indian economy I am discussing right now. Then again look up and again start speaking. तो आपको प्लान तो करना ही पड़ेगा. अगर मैं बिना प्लान के बोलता तो ये बातें तो ऐसी हैं जिस पे आप देख ही रहे हैं, हम तो 3 क्लास से कहाँ पे अटके हुए हैं. तो 3 क्लास में तो 47 से 66 नहीं पहुंचा हूं तरीके से, और 66 से 80 पहुंचूंगा चौथी क्लास में. तो अगर ये है हालत 10 घंटे में, तो यूट्यूब वीडियो 25 मिनट में बनाना है जहां 47 से 23 पहुंचना है, तो क्या करें? याद तो है ही चीजें, ऑर्गेनाइज्ड हैं. एक स्टॉप वॉच रख लें और बात करते करते देख लें कि मैं ट्रैक पे हूं या फिसल रहा हूं इधर उधर. So it's about telling you that remain planned and remain a little humble. It does help. believe me, humility leads to lack of humiliation. Always keep that in mind. जिनमें ह्यूमिलिटी होती है उनका ह्यूमिलिएशन नहीं होता, क्योंकि वो परेशानी नहीं है कि लोग क्या सोच रहे हैं, फर्स्ट अटेम्प्ट मेरा नहीं होगा तो लोग क्या कहेंगे, कुछ भी कहेंगे. आई हैव माई हेड्स हेल्ड हाई बिकॉज आई वर्क द हार्डेस्ट. So just have that approach. I don't know, again, I'm not scaring you. I'm not telling you you won't qualify in first attempt. और विशाल जिनकी बात मैं कर रहा हूँ जो फाइनली क्वालिफाई हुए, उनके एक बहुत अच्छे दोस्त थे और ये दोनों साथ ही पढ़ते थे, एक ही कॉलेज के थे. They were from same college. They studied together and she qualified in her first attempt 51st rank. Then it puts more pressure on you. That when you are better than somebody, at least my assessment was that he was comparatively better, but then still said that somebody qualifies in the first attempt itself and you are not qualifying, that's a bigger test for you. Because then you don't know what's going wrong with me. But sometimes there can be nothing wrong with you. There can be others who might have done better. All right, so just thought I should tell you this. These are days in your preparation when you should not be putting unnecessary pressure on you. God willing, you guys will qualify. अगर ईश्वर की इच्छा रही क्वालिफाई कर ही जाओगे आराम से, एक अटेम्प्ट में भी कर सकते हैं आराम से हम क्वालिफाई. बट व्हाई टेक दैट अननेसेसरी प्रेशर दैट आई गॉट टू डू इट? आई विल डू इट एंड आई वोंट टेक एनी कॉन्शियस प्रेशर. प्रेशर तो है ही, अच्छे स्टूडेंट हो तुम लोग, तो प्रेशर तो वैसे ही है बहुत सारा दिमाग में, उसको और प्रेशर कुकर क्यों बना रहे हो? इट्स नॉट दैट प्रेशर इज नॉट देयर इनसाइड यू, वो तो रहेगा ही, नहीं है तो ही मुझे आश्चर्य होगा. That if you come and tell me, sir, I feel no pressure at all and I believe I'll qualify, then I will realize how naive you are. But I know you are not that naive and you have the pressure. So don't let that pressure get the better of you. That's why I tell you these things in the classrooms at times. Okay, now see, the first thing that happened due to which we had a problem was decline of public sector enterprises. What was the decline? 1951 to 1966. Public sector enterprises were earning a positive 3.3% per annum rate of return, but 1966 to 1980 rate of return turned to a negative 2.5%. So this was what the public sector was facing. All right, we saw a positive rate of return for public sector, and then it goes to a negative rate of return otherwise. Martin, you can leave a message for me and I will respond. We can fix up a time. Venkatesh, I hope you got me. Your test series for 24 will be free. If God willing you clear prelims in 25 when you write your first attempt, it will still remain free. Now the time spent in classes should not be counted in it, Sana. Not a problem, Pooja. I will be writing them today. All right. Now, why did this happen? Understand this. And first, try and okay. So let's try building it up. So I'm making you write reasons for decline in performance of public sector. If you recall, when I was teaching you second 5-year plan and so on, I was teaching you reasons of objectives of public sector. I hope you would recollect. I was teaching you objectives of public sector with the second 5-year plan. Now I am teaching you reasons for the decline of public sector in this time period. So one of them was a poor pricing strategy. ये अलग से question आ सकता है from India between 47 and 91 that evaluate the role of public sector in growth of Indian economy between 47 and 91. I will be evaluating it separately with you too. All right, I will be doing that. So don't worry about that. But these points are the problem parts in public sector. All right, so objectives we wrote, benefits I will make you write separately. Right now, I'm not making you write that, but benefits we will discuss separately. But these are the challenges that are coming in here. So objectives of public sector, benefits created by public sector, challenges of public sector, and then the solution. Benefits part is missing right now. I will fill up that gap. All right, while discussing industrialization in India. But right now we are discussing the challenges, that what were the problems that were faced by the public sector industry. So poor pricing strategy. अब एक बात समझना यहाँ, इकोनॉमिक सर्विसेज के सिलेबस में ये लिखा भी हुआ है that strategy of pricing by public sector. That is something we should know. That is a part of your economic services syllabus, you know, that how do public sectors price their product. Now see, when you look at pricing strategy, what was this poor pricing strategy? Public sector in India, after 1966, started charging a lesser price on practically every commodity that they were producing. And another problem was they started producing almost every commodity. दोनों बातें समझिएगा आप. One, the public sector was and is not required to produce everything in a country. Why should public sector be producing, say, breads? But we had a modern bread factory. Why should public sector be producing scooters? But we had a Scooters India Limited, we still have it. Why should public sectors be producing motor pumps? But we had a Hindustan Motor Pump. You understand that? So public sector was not necessarily needed everywhere, but A, it was there everywhere. And another thing was, wherever it was, it started charging low, suggesting that this was a method of keeping the price low. अब देखो, एक ऑब्जेक्टिव था पब्लिक सेक्टर का कि प्राइसेस को कम रखेंगे. One of the objectives of public sector was, we will keep price in control. But as I was telling you in the previous class also, that you keep the price in control by achieving economies of scale, by producing with efficiency, not by subsidizing everything. अब दो बातें समझा रहा हूं, आप जिंदा होके मुझे सुनते रहिएगा. All right. So first I will teach you a theory, and then I'll tell you what is the public sector pricing strategy, how they should be priced. Theory is this. See, when it comes to spending money and using money, there are some interesting facets. You go and buy a t-shirt or a shirt or a trouser or a phone for yourself. This is one private spending their own money on themselves. All right? You will be very conscious. You will be very conscious about two things. One, the quality of the product should be as good as possible because I am buying it for myself. Two, the value of the product should be as good as possible because my money is being spent. मेरे पैसे खर्च हो रहे हैं तो एक एक पैसा वसूल होना चाहिए और मेरे लिए सामान आ रहा है तो सबसे बढ़िया सामान आना चाहिए. I make it case 2. You are buying a t-shirt or a shirt for me with your money. All right. Now, you will still look for value of the product to be as superior as possible because it's your money that you are spending to buy a gift for me. But now you are spending your money to buy a gift for me. So if for buying for yourself you looked for 10 t-shirts and then selected one, in my case it can be 4 or 5. You understand that? क्योंकि वो आपको नहीं पहनना, मेरे लिए खरीद रहे हो, तो आपके मन में क्या आएगा? पैसे मेरे लग रहे हैं, अच्छी चीज दूंगा सर को, पर ये तो सर पहन ही लेंगे, इतना भी क्या सर, उम्र हो गई है, तोंद निकल गई है, इतना ही काफी है. So that is human attitude. You go by that. Then I create situation 3. Situation 3 is that you are spending somebody else's money on yourself. All right? Somebody else tells you, look, this is the money, you keep it and spend it on yourself. This is government collecting taxpayers' money and then spending it for public administration or other activities which are for government authorities. जैसे सरकार को अपने लिए एक गाड़ी खरीदनी है, सरकार को अपने लिए एक घर बनवाना है, सरकार को अपने लिए यूनिफॉर्म्स खरीदने हैं. So if the government has to buy uniforms, clothes, cars, houses, now what's happening? It's somebody else's money, but it will be purchasing things which will be spent on you. Now you will be very conscious about the quality of the product. भाई अच्छा घर बनना चाहिए, अच्छा मशीन आना चाहिए, अच्छी गाड़ी आनी चाहिए, but you will not be that price conscious because now it is somebody else's money. You know? तो आप देखेंगे सरकारी दफ्तरों में ये आम डायलॉग होता है, पैसे की कोई बात नहीं है, बताओ सामान ठीक होना चाहिए. पैसे मेरे हैं ही नहीं, तो उसकी कोई बात ही नहीं होगी. It's not my money, so why should anybody talk about it? That becomes a challenge for public sector expenditure. And then I will make it worse for you, a fourth situation, when you have to spend somebody else's money on somebody else. This is government giving subsidy. Understand that. Now you are getting money from the taxpayer, somebody else, and you are spending it on somebody else. Now, you will have to be doubly conscious, triply conscious. Otherwise, A, you will not be very concerned about quality of the product. It's not you who will be consuming it. And you will not be very concerned about the amount of expenditure because it's not your money which is going down. So these are the four ideas of expenditure and targeted expenditure. I don't say that. This is not my theory. This was brought in by Milton Friedman. So he brought it in around 45 years ago. But this is a wonderful theory to understand that how, therefore, we should be more conscious and there should be more checks and balances when it's about government spending money on somebody, whether itself or on some other purposes. Now, in public sector's case, many times it would be government spending money and it would be again for benefits of others. So pricing strategy went poor. Now, what should be the pricing strategy of public sector? Understand that. What is a good pricing strategy? So, when you look at pricing strategy for public sector, it comes like this. A, there can be pure public goods. Pure public goods are those which once created you cannot exclude anyone and they will give benefits to all. There is no rivalry and there is no exclusion possible. So once created, like say defense, law and order, you understand that? These are pure public goods. Radio broadcasting by government. These are pure public goods. They're given once created. They are not rivalry. There's no rivalry and normally you would not like to exclude anyone from the services. In this case, they should be completely free of cost. All right, these are pure public goods for everybody's welfare. They're welfare oriented. So there should be full subsidy, no price. There should be full subsidy. There should be no price charged. Then, so this is one that happens. Then, the second type is what are called merit goods. The second type is what are called, yes, I said defense, law and order, all right. Now, merit goods are those which have a positive spillover effect or a positive externality on the society as a whole, all right. कि आपके जैसे education, health care, all right, clean water supply, these are all merit goods. All right, so civic amenities and so on. So merit goods, there, either full subsidy or subsidy as much as what the nation can afford. Mind you, that's again very important. Ideally for education, healthcare, no harm, give them free of cost. But larger question is, can we afford it? And if we cannot afford it, then make it a subsidy which is some proportion, maybe 60% subsidy, 70% subsidy, that can be given and rest money can be taken from the people. So a small fee or some kind of a contribution and rest can be free. So either free of cost or some subsidy given as much as what the nation can afford. Also remember, when it comes to merit goods, what is equally important is what quality of merit goods are you supplying. So if I'm giving free school to people and people are getting badly educated in that free school, then I'm wasting my subsidy again. All right, understand it like that. So free goods, pure public goods, these can be either free goods or they can be commodities where some subsidy can be given. And then there is a third category called public utilities. Public utilities are things like electricity, things like railways, These are public utilities, all right? Maybe water supply. So these are electricity, railways, water supply. These are public utilities, all right? Public sector se provided basic utility ki cheezein. So public utilities. In these public utilities, cost of production should be recovered. जितना आपका खर्चा लग रहा है उतने आप लोगों से जरूर रिकवर कर लो. Cost of production should be recovered. Train the people into doing that. Cost of production should be recovered. That is public utilities. All right? कि जो भी आपके खर्चे लग रहे हैं उतने पैसे, जैसे इलेक्ट्रिसिटी है, you can give people cheaper electricity, but do make sure you are recovering the cost of production. All right? Similarly, we can give people cheaper railways, but do recover the cost of production. Government in India, understand this, government in India tried practicing this through a method called cross subsidy. भारत सरकार ने ये प्रैक्टिस करने की कोशिश की एक मेथड से, कहते हैं क्रॉस सब्सिडी. दैट इज यू गिव सब्सिडी एंड चार्ज लेसर देन कॉस्ट from one sector, but then charge higher price from another to compensate for that. All right, cross subsidy is that. I'll give you an example. Like in electricity, we give subsidy to households and household consumers, but then we charge more from the industrial consumers. You understand that? जो commercial consumers हैं वो ज़्यादा पैसे देते हैं और जो household के consumer हैं वो कम पैसे देते हैं. तो idea है कि एक दूसरे को ये compensate कर दें. Take more money from one segment, take lesser from another, but make sure you are recovering your cost of production. But where does it go wrong? Initially, it might start like this. We will charge high at one place, we will charge low at another, and they will compensate each other. But gradually, what starts happening is that we end up charging higher everywhere, lesser everywhere. तो जैसे शुरुआत में बोले हाउस होल्ड से कम पैसे चार्ज करेंगे, ठीक है, इसके बदले इंडस्ट्रियलिस्ट पैसे देंगे. जनरल बोगी में कम पैसे चार्ज करेंगे, इसके बदले एसी कोचेस ज्यादा पैसे देंगे. यू अंडरस्टैंड दैट? धीरे धीरे हम क्या करते हैं, जो लोग ज्यादा पैसे दे रहे हैं वो अपनी लॉबिंग करते हैं, वो अपना प्रेशर ग्रुप बनाते हैं, वो बोलते हैं मेरे भी मत बढ़ाओ. तो हम क्या करते हैं, हम उनके पैसे भी बढ़ाना बंद कर देते हैं. नाउ रिमेंबर, विथ टाइम्स इन्फ्लेशन विल हैपन. My cost of raw materials will rise, my overall cost of production will rise, but because of the lobbying done by the other segment from whom I was taking high money, now I stop increasing that fare. And that means I'm running in a loss, I'm going down, and what is the problem due to that? My technology is weak, my upgradations are not happening, but because of the pressure I'm not increasing the price. So the cross subsidy idea has majorly failed in India, majorly. You know, we don't have success stories here. Plus, it creates problem. If you are charging higher from commercial enterprises to subsidize the household, in a sense, in some instances, you are subsidizing a rich household at the cost of a small-scale industry. That can also happen, and that may not be equitable. So this is something we have not woken up to. But anyways, this is the third idea, that if there are public utilities, then cost of production should be recovered. And then, D, commercial goods and services. Commercial goods and services, as I was telling you, if the government is running a hotel, if the government is running an airline, if the government is running, say, a motor pump company, a scooters company, a bread manufacturing company, then obviously these things are not run for public welfare. These things have to be run for making profit, earn your profit, reinvest, and do welfare for people. All right? So whenever it's a commercial goods and services, then market price should be charged and higher rate of return, market price should be charged and higher rate of return should be targeted. It should be made sure that if you are not earning a profit, then we will take action. so that you do earn a profit. There is no excuse for an airline company not earning a profit. There cannot be an excuse run by the government for a hotel company not earning a profit. There cannot be an excuse for a bread manufacturing company or a motor pump manufacturing company or a scooters manufacturing company not to make profit. You understand that? Why do I say that? They are doing no public welfare, so if they are not making profit, the action has to be taken about it. Sell them off, close them down, reform them, whatever you would like to do. So these are the 4 ideas of pricing public sector. All right, pure public goods, set them free. Merit goods, give them free or charge money depending on your capacity. On public utilities, recover the cost of production. And on commercial goods, you charge money as much as possible because you got to make your profits out of that. So this was the idea initially. Public goods को charge करने के ये तरीके बने थे. But what happened per se? What was the return? What was the result? The result was that we started charging lesser than cost of production on practically every public good that we had been supplying. And that was poor pricing strategy. Do I believe I reach you on this? Okay, you just write one line below that. The poor pricing strategy was reflected in less than proportionate price for almost all public goods and services. Almost all public goods and services which led to losses for public sector. Okay, all right. Understand this. आपके मन में कोई दुविधा ना आए, मैं क्लियर कर देता हूं. We started discussing the problems between 66 and 80, in which the first point was decline of public sector enterprises. And within this decline of public sector enterprises, I gave you the first point, that was poor pricing strategy. All right, I told you that this was the decline in public sector enterprises. This was the first point about the challenges between 1966 to 80. What were the reasons that we had challenges between 66 to 80? ये पहला point था. In this first point, I started with decline of public sector. I told you that these were the points of decline, and then I go ahead and I tell you about poor pricing strategy being the reason or the first reason why public sector was declining. I hope I am making sense to you on that. And within that, we were discussing what should be a proper pricing strategy. Yes, yes, Rohit. Okay, yes, good you asked that. Yes, so you know this whole division that we have made is itself fungible. So sometimes for a country, something like public utility can become a public good over a period of time. For example, say if I'm rich enough country, I can give a water supply free of cost. All right, that ways. So they can overlap with each other. Now, yes, yes. Absolutely. Yes, so it is expected that defense and law and order are always political domain things. चाइना भारत में आ गया, ये हम कितनी बार बात करते हैं ना, लेकिन हमारे बच्चे पढ़ लिख नहीं रहे, ये बात उतनी नहीं होती. Think about it. So this is where we got to be conscious that the quality or government schools, government hospitals giving under bad quality services at times gets discussed, but not as China has entered India. So this will be taken care of by your political economy, the pure public goods. The problem will arise with public utilities, with merit goods, because there the people may not be discussing the quality as much. All right? Yes, yes. Yes, yes. Water supply can be merit goods. Water supply can be public utilities. It will depend on which stage of development the economy has reached. So as my economy keeps moving in its stages of development, my methods can be different. That will depend on which kind of government services we are talking about. Colleges are merit goods. Yes, yes. Colleges are merit goods. They are not utilities. They are services to enhance our capacity, expecting that they do. That is the idea. All right. Then remember the second reason why public sector did not do that well. मैं एक बार फिर हिंदी में सबको बता रहा हूँ, अंग्रेजी में बोल चुका हूँ. पहला पॉइंट है पब्लिक सेक्टर का खराब परफॉर्मेंस, जिसकी वजह से 1966 से 1980 तक डिक्लाइन चलता रहा. मैं इसी पॉइंट को एक्सप्लेन कर रहा हूं कि क्यों पब्लिक सेक्टर की परफॉर्मेंस खराब हो रही थी बिटवीन 66 एंड 80. All right, so I'm just explaining that point to you. Now, the second thing that happened, the bad strategy by public sector was, if I can use B, overstaffing by public sector due to less commercial orientation poor training of management and political interference. This was the second reason why public sector was performing poorly. There was overstaffing. Overstaffing means having more people than what you can accommodate or what you would like for efficiency. All right, that is overstaffing. ज़रूरत से ज़्यादा लोगों की भर्ती होना. All right, so overstaffing is having more people than what you can accommodate or what you need for efficiency. Now, overstaffing by public sector due to less commercial orientation, there has been a culture created in India which makes it sound as if all public sectors don't have to be meant or they just don't have to think about profit making. And that is a dangerous aspect. Understand that. Certain public sectors which are supplying public utilities or which are supplying merit goods, I can understand not earning profit. But majority of public sectors in India are those which are supplying none of the two. And then it's not understandable why they won't be earning profits. You understand that? Other than that, even if they are supplying public utilities, why can't they recover their cost of production? So we became indisciplined, and we became indisciplined because the commercial orientation was lacking. The point is that. I'll just take a minute. Why was the commercial orientation lacking? Because the professionals were not managing it. Please understand that. God willing, you become an IAS officer, you will be trained to be an officer. You won't be trained to be a manager. So you are meant to make your blunders, barring exceptions if you have a training in management or if you know how to manage things well, intuitively, which I doubt always. Intuition is beneficial only up to a limit. But beyond that, you need training. आप में से कुछ लोग MBA किए होंगे तो आप ट्रेंड हैं, आपको तरीका बताया गया कि कैसे एक सिस्टम चलाते हैं. नहीं ट्रेंड है, नहीं पता है हमें. ये बात हमें माननी चाहिए. लेकिन सोचिए आप IAS बन गए और ये बात मानना छोड़ दिए. आपको लगा नहीं मैं तो जानता हूँ. I will run this company now. But unfortunately you don't. So for you, it won't bother you much when the overstaffing is happening as much as what it will bother a professional manager. So that was lack of commercial orientation. And understand what I was telling you, 4 methods of expenditure and income. Here in public sector, government is spending money on somebody else and spending somebody else's money. So government is not very careful about how you are spending your money. Theoretically, you will have a CAG, and theoretically, you will have a CAG report. You understand that? But practically, you are not losing. It is just that. And since you are not losing, it becomes a trouble. अगर मेरी ये बात नहीं समझ आ रही, एक याद करके देखना, जब भी तुम घर से पहली बार बाहर निकले, कुछ लोग शायद अब निकले होंगे, but many of you might have left early. So whenever you would have left your house first time, and parents gave you a monthly budget, telling you this is your money, suddenly the consciousness about money changed. It used to be very different till it was their money. And now it is my money, even though given by them. But they tell us it is your money. So now if somebody says you got to spend it here, hang on, my money. कभी कभी हम पेरेंट्स से बार्गेनिंग भी करते थे, अरे मेरा फोन तुम रिचार्ज करा दो, फिर पेरेंट्स बोलते तुम्हें पैसे तो दिए हैं, अरे वो तो तुमने मुझे खर्चे के लिए दिए हैं. यू अंडरस्टैंड दैट? ये बातें क्यों होती थी? जबकि सारे पैसे वही दे रहे हैं, रिचार्ज भी वही करवाएंगे और पैसे, लेकिन ये पैसा आपके हिस्सेदारी का आ गया, आपके बजट का आ गया, आपकी जवाबदेही हो गई अपने आप को लेकर. दिस इज माई मनी, आई गॉट टू स्पेंड इट. योर कॉन्शियसनेस अबाउट स्पेंडिंग चेंजेस. So as long as it is not understood it is my money, the consciousness about spending money remains very different. And I remain very gratuitous while spending it, sometimes not caring about the efficiency part. That was our challenge one. Second was poor training of management in handling the workers actually. What I meant here is that poor training of management in handling the workers. You know, workers' strike would be common even in public sector. Workers reporting delayed was common. It still is in some cases. You know, workers time पे नहीं आ रहे हैं, strike पे जा रहे हैं. Management trained ही नहीं थे कि उनको कैसे handle किया जाए. You understand that how to handle these workers, the management was not trained about that. And the third was political interference. Minister Sahab will write a letter. MLA Sahab will write another letter. If the MP Sahab is none of the two, then he will write another. You know? And then all these will ask their people to be appointed. The manager in the company doesn't have much of a choice. That fellow knows that clout inhi ka chalta hai is area mein. These are the people who dominate the region. So the manager says, okay, let's accommodate them all. And in the process, there would be overstaffing. Indian Railways is a typical example. Some of you might have seen that. Not in the upper categories. In upper categories, it's all by exam. But look into the category 3, I mean, grade 3, grade 4, grade 5 employees, and you will see, like, say, you know, the employees below the officer level and junior officer levels. And you will see sometimes the entire family is working in railway. क्योंकि एक कोई घुसे, उन्होंने बाकियों को अपने साथ ले लिया. तुम भी आ जाओ, मैं तुम्हारे लिए बन गया ये चेन. तो सबको खींचते जा रहे हैं अंदर. ईस्टर्न इंडिया में तो मोस्ट प्रोमिनेंट है ये. Places like Bihar, Jharkhand, West Bengal, families in railway. You know, and again I repeat, not the upper end, because that's where you need to write a test. You need to take an interview. Lower end, where the entries could have happened in those days without much of a test and all. This became a challenge because railways, electricity department, public works department, irrigation department, they started getting overstaffed. And that meant that the costs started rising, productivity started falling, and profits started going down. Then the other problem that the public sector had, that we saw in those days, was poor source of raw material as public sector firms had to purchase, as public sector firms had to purchase their raw material from other public sector firms only unless none was available. So that was our third challenge, poor source of, yes. Because they wouldn't know what they are doing. They wouldn't be able to manage the workers. Not only keep on employing, they won't even be able to take work from those who are employed. I should know how to make my workers work, no? That is what management training is about, you know, and that was poorly trained. one more thing that was happening here. So coming to this, poor source of raw material. I'll give you an example. Suppose if I am a public sector company, NTPC, and I am told that you can source your raw material coal. NTPC is National Thermal Power Corporation. तो मेरा काम है बिजली उत्पादन करना. My work is to produce electricity. I am told that you can produce electricity only by sourcing your coal from Coal India Limited. All right. Now, Coal India Limited is the only supplier to me which is allowed to me. Say I am not even allowed to import, and there is no competitor for Coal India, or I am not allowed to buy from the competitors. Now, if Coal India doesn't supply coal on time, or Indian Railway doesn't deliver that coal to me on time, my production capacity will suffer for sometimes no fault of mine. Do I believe I reach you on this? So that became a challenge again, that for many commodities, the governments had made a rule that you can source it only from public sector. And that meant that the public sector supplier knew that I have a captive market. मुझे छोड़कर ये किसी और से खरीद ही नहीं सकते. So if they cannot buy from anybody else, I can always control this market by supplying on my will, supplying the quality I would like to, and that then meant that the entire supply chain got vitiated. All right, कि पूरा supply chain खराब होने लगा क्योंकि production quality गिरने लगी. So that was again a problem that we faced of poor sourcing of raw materials. You had raised your hand, I'm so sorry, forgot. What kind of? Recovery of cost should be done. Right. Again, it should not be given on general tickets to all destinations. It can be given on general tickets to remote areas, general tickets to rural areas, and there should be higher charges on air conditions. No, it's not commercial. Railway is not commercial because it has a social structure to serve, inter-city connectivity and all. You understand that? But railway cannot be a pure public good. And again, think, when you introduce competition, you make things much cheaper. So the long-term idea should be to make railways a competitive sector where there can be an Indian Rail Corporation and there can be private players playing with them, and there can be more competition, which will bring the prices down. So unfortunately, in India, we don't go towards competition much. We always try controlling. And control has a very nice, solution. The nice solution to control is bribe the fellow who is controlling you. So that becomes a challenge. And then finding a person who will not be bribed or who will not be influenced. Bribed maybe is a wrong term, but influenced itself becomes a challenge, and then this whole system becomes a challenge for those people who are honestly working in the system. But it's not that you can bribe everyone. It is not that everyone is corrupt. Many people are wonderfully honest and working very hard, doing their job, very intelligent. Now imagine these people are unnecessarily disturbed by those who are corrupt. You understand that? We have some very gifted people in our police, in our administration, in railways, in roadways development, but then you need to give them highlighting part, but that doesn't happen when you are giving more control mechanism. You rather let these people have more freedom in their operation, and they can do much better for you. That is the aspect. All right. Yes. Yes. Yeah. To be honest, I don't support even that. That when you say that women will get tickets for free, but imagine, why should a woman like you get ticket for free? Why should my wife get a ticket for free? You understand that? Why should we take a ticket for free? And again, honestly speaking, if I were you, because I'm not a woman, but if I were you, then I would have protested saying, don't give me tickets for free, give me better quality buses. Give me better policing in this city. You understand that? Give me better quality of citizenry by educating people better. Because the free tickets are not helping me apart from, imagine, even if I'm traveling every day, so the maximum I'll be spending is something like 40 rupees in a day. Because that's the highest DTC ticket, kind of. I'm not well versed, but that was what I did in my last research a couple of years back. Now that means even if I'm traveling every day, 25 days, I'm saving 1,000 rupees. For many women, it will come down to nothing much. It's like one large pizza value meal. So I'm not helping them much by making it for free. But imagine when 1,000 rupees is spent on, say, 1 crore women, it becomes a 1,000 crore expenditure. And 1,000 crore in bulk can actually help people much better than giving free bus tickets. Somebody has to explain this to our government mechanism. This populism has crept into India in the last 10 years quite a bit, because again the grassroots democracy is missing. So we want to impress our poors that we are pro-you. And we are distributing things for free. We don't realize that this is not pro-poor. This is actually pro those people who can avail a bus and then who can get it for free. Or even the same thing I say on electricity. Imagine in a Karol Bagh kind of an area, when you give electricity for free up to 200 units and half the price for 400 units, if I have a house of 800 square feet, by default my electricity consumption won't rise 200 units beyond. And you are giving me that electricity for free. And my house is worth 1 crore 20 lakh odd rupees. So you are giving electricity subsidy to a crorepati. And 3,200 crore rupees is what Delhi government spent last year on electricity subsidy. So that is the challenge, if you ask me, that we don't do studies. And okay, now electricity subsidy is 7 years old, bus subsidy is 4 years old, water subsidy is 6 years old. Why not have a study done as to whether these subsidies are actually doing what they were meant to, or they are not reaching out to the people? And hire a third party, the government can hire a third party, do a transparent research and make it public. And let there be a counter discussion on that in public domain. That will be democratic, rather than the Raja Sahab believing that my thought is the only thought which will work, and Raja Sahab implementing it, whether it is Fasal Bima Yojana or the electricity subsidy. I'm talking about all Raja Sahabs and Rani Sahibas in India. So that is a challenge that we face. Yes, yes. I see, think again, when we say that we can do inclusive errors, that let rich people get included, but poor should not be excluded. Pick up on electricity subsidy. My poors are sleeping on pavement. Are they included? My poors are living in slum areas, and slum areas don't have electricity connection given by the government. Are they included? So I'm blind to the fact that I'm not including my poors. Or I'm deliberately playing blind because I'm playing to my middle class gallery, which will decide the things in the newspapers, which will then decide the public discourse. So basically the idea should be, one, give subsidy for empowerment, not for charity. Two, evaluate the impact of your subsidy every 3, 4, 5 years to check whether the subsidy is reaching the targeted group. Connected to two, if it is reaching the targeted group, enhance the subsidy. If it is not reaching the targeted group, find out the reason why it is not reaching it and rectify them. In case you see that the reasons are irreprehensible, they cannot be rectified, change the method of your subsidy. And three, more importantly, focus on empowering your poors by giving them infrastructure, giving them education, healthcare, information, vaccination, and so on, rather than keeping them dependent on a Ladli Behna Yojana or schemes like that. You are keeping them dependent, to be honest. So that is something we got to be very careful about, that evaluation of subsidy. And I'll discuss these all things with you in detail when I'm teaching you inequality in India. But imagine all these subsidies are still not making Delhi equal in spite of last 7 years. If at all, I'm seeing the number of slums rising rather than falling. So we got to do studies on all this. That's why I said Raja Sahab and Rani Sahibas. Raja Sahabs didn't believe in doing research. They believed in their intuition working. मैं इतने सालों से हूं, मेरा intuition ही काम करेगा. That is the challenge that we face, if you ask. But I'll discuss with you subsidy and freebies and all this discussion much better when I'm teaching you inequality in India. I will do a detailed discussion on this. Okay, you wait till I teach you infrastructure. The way we incorporated competition in telecom, similarly we can incorporate competition in railways. I can give you a hint like that. But I will be teaching you infrastructure, and we can teach you how we can incorporate competition here. In case you feel more interested, there is a Bibek Debroy committee report on privatization of Indian railways. This was around 7 years back. So this is again a very good report to suggest how Indian railways can have competition. Public sector continues and private can be allowed in. That kind of a thing. All right, now see, so these this was the third point. Then the fourth reason why public sector did not do well, D, was poor capital infusion resulting in lack of efficiency in production. Poor capital infusion का मतलब पैसा डालना. All right, आप पैसे जो डाल रहे हैं public sector में, that is capital infusion. How much money can you put in the public sector? Poor capital infusion was due to budget constraint of the government and lack of profitability of public sector. बजट कंस्ट्रेंट, सरकार के अपने बजट कंस्ट्रेंट थे और प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी कम थी. Subsidy regarding farmers, you wait till I teach you agriculture अब है, you will have a much better understanding. Divyanshi, imagine when you say free things can encourage people to allow women to go out, think of it, is women's subjugation in India an economic issue or a social issue? Women can be very rich, coming from rich families, driving their own cars, and still sometimes asking their husbands whether they can go somewhere or not. Who is this husband who will give permission? What is his right? But the women themselves give that right to their husbands. So it's more a social thing. I mean, I've seen women in good families waiting for the family to eat before they will eat. What nonsense, imagine. You know, if they are hungry, they should eat first. Why should the family eat and then they should eat? That's women's subjugation, if you ask me. You know, you are having a menstrual flow, you can't go to the temple. Why? Imagine it like that. So these are all rules that way, because some people say the Vedas say it. Believe me, I've read all 4 and all 18 Puranas. Nowhere is it written. So these were rules created to subjugate women. I think it's high time we say that social subjugation of women should be stopped, and economic subsidies like free bus fare will not help it. Rather, good education to women will mean they can earn their bus fare and travel. You know, so I would suggest if you could think like that. All right. You can mention the company's name if required. Astha, if you could leave this question of yours for me on a telegram, I will be responding to it. All right. Now see, just one more thing. And theory of classification of public goods was not given by anyone. This is a theory that has evolved in the public domain. All right. Now coming to one more thing. When you talk about this poor capital infusion, the challenge it creates is that you start using machines which are not up to the mark. You are not able to buy land as much as what you would like. You are not able to buy or say infuse enough money for modernization and upgradation. That was the problem or challenge of poor capital infusion. What does it do? I'm making you write a line. You please write that, and then I will explain it to you. In the same thing, continuation. You write, it led to increasing capital output ratio. It led to increasing capital output ratio for public sector firms. Capital output ratio for public sector firms. So when we say this capital output ratio, in our discussion on economics, we will keep using K for capital and Y for output. All right, ये हमेशा याद रखोगे, दोबारा मत पूछना. So K for capital and Y for output. All right, K by Y is what we will talk about things. What does this K by Y represent? This K by Y represents the efficiency of capital. All right? This ratio shows amount of capital needed to produce, say, an extra output. And mind you, higher capital output ratio implies less productive capital. Higher capital output ratio implies less productive capital. I hope you can make sense from the ratio itself. अगर ये capital output ratio 4 है, तो इसका मतलब क्या होगा? That to produce 1 unit of output, I need 4 capital. But if this capital output ratio rises to 5, it will mean for producing 1 unit of output, I need 5 units of capital, which means I need more capital to produce extra output, and that's inefficiency. You understand that? जैसे ये कैपिटल आउटपुट रेशियो बढ़ता है, तो इसका मतलब मुझे ज्यादा मशीन चाहिए आउटपुट प्रोड्यूस करने को, और इसका मतलब मशीन की एफिशिएंसी फिर क्या हो रही है? कम. All right, as this capital output ratio rises, it implies I need more machines to produce output, and that means efficiency of machine is becoming lesser. Yes, yes. Okay, let's discuss it when I'm discussing public versus private for you, but think I'm giving you a food for thought. How come private sector could eat up public sector when public sector is the one who makes the rules? So shouldn't we be rather highlighting the inefficiency of public sector rather than blaming it on private sector? And are you happier today using your phone calls? Or imagine people like us, when I was a 20-year-old, there would be 9 rupees per minute phone call at 11 o'clock at night for STD phones. And 18 rupees per minute between 6 o'clock and 9 o'clock in the evening. And 36 rupees per minute between 9 in the morning till 6 in the evening. Very difficult for people who are in long distance relation like me. You know, troubled days. I feel so jealous of all of your generation. You guys can do a video call. We guys would write letters, 10 pages. That also with my handwriting, my wife won't even read. You know? So understand that. जब आप कहते हैं ना पब्लिक सेक्टर को खा गए प्राइवेट सेक्टर, क्योंकि पब्लिक सेक्टर ने खुद को खाने दिया ना. मैं निकम्मा रहूंगा तो मेरे कॉम्पिटिटर्स मुझे खा ही जाएंगे. तो हंसना मेरे निकम्मेगिरी पे चाहिए या कहना चाहिए नहीं कॉम्पिटिटर्स ही क्यों लाए? क्या सोच के जवाब दिया तुमने? निकम्मागिरी पे. यही समझा रहा हूं that when you say private sector, if you introduce public sector, a private sector, the public sector has to face competition. Let them be competitive. Why should a public sector banker today behave the way they behave to their customers? Why aren't they improving themselves? They're facing competition. Yes, yes. एक बात सोच के देखो, तुम्हें पता है ना कि तुम्हें 10 घंटे पढ़ना चाहिए. रोज पढ़ पाते हो? क्यों खुद के लिए ही नुकसान कर रहे हो? बताओ क्यों? उसको कहते हैं इंस्टेंट ग्रेटिफिकेशन एंड लैक ऑफ कोऑर्डिनेशन अबाउट लॉन्ग टर्म सॉल्यूशंस. ये टेक्निकल वर्ड है उसके लिए. लगता है यार आज दोस्त का जन्मदिन है, आज मना लेते हैं, कल की कल देख लेंगे, पढ़ लूंगा कल में 5 घंटे एक्स्ट्रा. प्रीलिम्स तो अभी 1 साल बाद है. और साथ में क्या होता है, कोई बताने वाला नहीं कि बेटा 1 साल बाद तो प्रीलिम्स है, लेकिन पढ़ने को जितना है उस टोटल आवर्स को कैलकुलेट करो और डिवाइड करो नंबर ऑफ डेज से, तो आज ही 8-9 घंटे मामला पहुंच रहा है. तो उससे कम अगर पढ़ेंगे तो बात गड़बड़ होगी. बट ये ना कोऑर्डिनेटिंग बॉडीज हैं, क्योंकि जब तुम कहते हो गवर्नमेंट, सुनने में एक जैसा लगता है ना, बट एक जैसा थोड़ी है. इंडिया में 50 करोड़ केसेस पेंडिंग, 5 करोड़ केसेस पेंडिंग है, उसमें से 2 करोड़ केसेस तो सरकार ने सरकार पे कर रखा है. One government department filing a case against another government department. So government is not a monolith, big structure which remains, well coordinated, well-oiled machinery. Doesn't go like that. So sometimes one hand of the government is opposing what the other hand is suggesting. So never imagine it that why would the government like to make it bad? No, the government doesn't want to make it bad. But sometimes there are too many considerations in front of you where you forget efficiency as a consideration. Sometimes you may not even know that this is efficiency. बट अगेन लेट्स नॉट डाइग्रेस, अगर मैं उधर चला गया तो हम लोग डाइग्रेशन में चले जाएंगे. मैं पब्लिक वर्सेस प्राइवेट डिबेट करूंगा आपके साथ इन इंडिया आफ्टर 91. यू वुड बी इन्फॉर्म्ड अबाउट मेनी थिंग्स बाय देन. All right now it will be a less informed discussion because I have not informed you about many things. All right, so let's inform ourselves, know things, and then realize, okay, what should be done about public sector, which kind of public sector should be allowed to prevail, which should be allowed to be sold. We will do this complete discussion, but you give me a lose out here. यहाँ नहीं बात करते हैं उसके बारे में, इसके आगे बात करूंगा और अच्छे से समझाऊंगा तुम्हें कि पब्लिक सेक्टर की इंपॉर्टेंस क्या है इंडिया में और क्यों उसको बने रहना चाहिए, लेकिन किन चीजों में बने रहना चाहिए. What is the relevance of public sector, why we should continue with them, and in which fields we should continue with them. We will do a discussion on that. So right now I'm not taking any question from you on public sector versus private sector discussion. All right, we'll come back to this about public versus private in India, because right now you don't know many things about post 91 India. So let's build it up for you first. Yes. But the problem is that subsidy is more for wage payment. That subsidy is more for replacing those assets which are not productive in nature. You understand that? जो मैनेजर साहब हैं उनके रूम का कूलर 2 साल पुराना हो गया, उसको बदला जा रहा है, इस पे खर्चे हो रहे हैं. Believe me, I started developing humor. I had always been like this, but I started developing humor as my shield and my defense as I started studying Indian economy more. Otherwise, it can make you so angry you would blast off. आप फट जाएंगे गुस्से के मारे कि इतने बढ़िया देश में इतना ज्यादा जहां ताकत है ग्रो करने की, उसको इससे क्यों निकम्मा बना के रखा अपनी पॉलिसीज की वजह से. तो मैंने ह्यूमर को अपना एक ढाल बना लिया, हंसता मजाक करने लगा इन बातों पे, क्या देखो क्या कर लिया हमने. So believe me on that, because as a student of Indian economy, when I go into details, when I used to teach at Delhi School of Economics, again, that was long back. Some of you would be just getting born, 2001 to 2005. I used to teach them a topic called economic development and planning in India, a subject. And there I used to take this as a case study, 1966 to 1980 India, of how not to make economic policies. This is a case study of that. कि एक अर्थव्यवस्था कैसे नहीं चलानी चाहिए. तो उसके केस स्टडी बन गए थे हम लोग उस जमाने में. तो ये और क्यों बन गए थे वो मैं बताऊंगा धीरे धीरे. बट द पॉइंट इज दैट व्हेन यू सी इंडियाज एरर्स, यू विल रियलाइज दैट दोज एरर्स हैव बीन मोर मैन मेड रादर देन एनीथिंग नेचुरल. We went ahead and did it because somehow we believed that is true. But I'll build you up on that, surely. Okay, now see, so I can believe two things before I go ahead. I can believe that my classroom understands that public sector had low capital infusion, which increased the capital output ratio. And capital output ratio is the amount of capital I need to produce an extra unit of output. And this capital output ratio was rising because of inefficiency that was introduced due to low capital infusion. With me on that? Okay, let's then take the next point. You write the fifth point. This was the fourth, I guess. Yes, you write the fifth point. I'll just take a second and I take your question. You write, lack of autonomy for public sector. Lack of autonomy for public sector. Income and output are same, Sukanya. That shows circular flow. We will discuss it, Sujoy, as to why government kept spending money on them. I hope, Jagrati, you heard me. I was repeating the point again. Poor capital infusion means less money put into the public sector. All right. Then, so lack of autonomy for public sector. That's another challenge in public sector. Political control and bureaucratic control had been tremendous. Even to get a permission to buy new raw material or to get permission to take a new investment project, they had to wait 6 months, 8 months, 10 months. All right. So that was lack of autonomy in performance. So we say that political and bureaucratic control delayed decision making regarding new investment, appointments of officers, new collaborations, etc. And that again contributed to inefficiency. Political and bureaucratic control delayed decision making regarding new investment, appointments of officers, new collaborations, etc., leading to again inefficiency. This was what was called the impact of red tapeism. All right, that was the term that they would use, red tapeism. Government office files in those days would use red tape, and some people used to use it as a pun on communism actually. The color would be red. तो कुछ लोग उसके लिए यूज करते थे मजाक बनाने के लिए, कहते रेड टेपिज्म में फंस गया कि एक जो फाइल है वो एक दफ्तर से दूसरे दफ्तर जा रही है, परमिशंस मिल ही नहीं रहे. All right, the file is moving from one table to another, permission is not being given, making public sector inefficient. In fact, there were instances when the CEOs and CMDs were not appointed for sometimes 6 months to 1 year. All right, there's a question I saw online, it reached me just now, that banking will qualify as which part of public sector? It will depend on what function bank is doing, but normally speaking, banks will qualify as public utilities. All right, banks will qualify as that, public utilities. All right, coming back to this, so these were the reasons why public sector performed poorly. If you will see, I've given you 5 points. If you can write 20 words on each of these points, which kind of I have written for you, that gives you 100 word. So if you write the objective, the definition of public sector, basic objective of public sector, and then talk about the challenges of public sector, and then conclude by suggesting the improvements, that can give you a 150-word answer if they ask you a question that what have been the challenges of public sector in India. Sometimes only that can be asked for 150 words. What have been the challenges, or analyze the challenges of public sector in India. They won't ask you anything else, but only the challenges. So 5 points, 20 odd words on each, 22 words on each, make 110 word content, and 20 words introduction and conclusion. You understand that? So that is how you should keep thinking mentally, that okay, this is what sir is teaching and this is the question, and that is how the answers can be formulated. Only on challenges, because if they are writing you only on challenges, they are asking you, you cannot write everything about the objective and what is public sector. ये गलती करते कभी कभी देखता हूँ कि सवाल होता है analyze the challenges of public sector, analyze the challenges. हम कहाँ से शुरू करते हैं? What is public sector? 30 वर्ड पहले उसी पे लिखते हैं, फिर 20, 25, 30 वर्ड लिखते हैं objectives of public sector, कभी कभी तो 40 वर्ड भी. अब 150 वर्ड के आंसर में 70 वर्ड तुम वो लिख रहे हो जो उन्होंने पूछा ही नहीं है. Understand that? It's like suppose you ask me, sir, where did you do your PhD from? And I am answering, when my grandfather was born. So that cannot be the method of my answer writing. So my answer writing has to be precise. Maybe 10, 15 words, 10 words I will define what is public sector, 15 words I will write about their objectives, 25 words introduction. Then 100 words, this should be the body. All the 5 points explained in 15, 20, 25 words each. And then the last 20, 25 words can be conclusion, suggesting about what steps can be taken to improve them, which I will teach you. But that has to be the method of writing answers if they ask you particular pinpointed questions in the exam. All right, in IES exams, what they do, similar questions can be asked as 5 markers or 6 markers, depending on how they have programmed the exam. So in those questions, they say 100 words, that's it. क्या आपको यही सवाल पूछ लेंगे और कहेंगे 100 वर्ड में जवाब दो. IES की बात कर रहा हूँ, economic services. 100 words will mean these 5 points should come, the explanations can be contracted, and you should make it something like 15, 16 words each, 70, 80 words your body, and 10, 10 words introduction and conclusion. But you cannot compromise on this, the 5 points that we wrote. So what I was trying to teach you was how you will make the adjustments based on what is being asked and for how many words are they asking you to write an answer for. All right. Now this is, yes. Yes. See, if you do poor capital infusion, for those of you who might have missed the fourth point, I'm repeating it again. If you do poor capital infusion, it means you are not putting enough funds in your sector. That will mean your technological upgradation will not happen, new machines will not come, improved versions will not be there, which will mean the same machine or the old technology or the duplicate machine or second-hand machines, these things will start getting used. And that will mean what? Your capacity of machine to produce will start falling, which will then increase capital output ratio. Is everybody clear on that? The D part? All right. Then this was the first point of reasons why we were doing badly in the 66 to 80 period. ये पहली बात थी, public sector performing poorly. Second, you write, second point, two, poor efficiency due to rigidity of licensing. Poor efficiency due to rigidity of licensing. Budget was a constraint that government didn't have enough money to put into it, and therefore there was no capital infusion. There was no capital infusion. I hope, Kashish, you got the point. Budget nahi tha sarkar ke paas, so no capital infusion. Ideally, that's what you expect the government to do, Harshika, but unfortunately, we don't see that happening. Okay, there is a question I'm asked that all these factors for poor performance of PSU that you mentioned, weren't they present from 51 to 66 when PSU performed better? See, again, remember, every system has good things present, bad things present. What is it that gets highlighted and which is it that gets strengthened becomes the dominant force. Communalism has been present in India since thousands of years now, you know. But that doesn't mean that every time we flare up with communalism. It's about when somebody decides to fan it up. Understand that. So, society में, economy में अच्छे और खराब चीजें simultaneously रहती हैं. किनको बढ़ावा मिलता है वो decide करता है कि आप किस दिशा में जाएंगे. So public sector had the possibility of these problems even in 51 to 66, but the governance was better, the bureaucratic system was better, and equally importantly, they were new. When you are new, then the right things are done quite naturally because people running you will believe in doing that. The rot sets in, as the word suggests, rot only gradually. Understand that. आप तैयारी जब शुरू करते हैं, क्या जोश होता है ना? अगर अभी शुरू किए होंगे तो अभी जोश होगा. सर ये तो आपने बता दिया पढ़ने को, इसके अलावा क्या पढ़ूं? इसके अलावा नहीं जरूरत बेटा, इतना ही पढ़ लो. अरे ये कोई बात हुई? और बताओ मुझे 3-4 किताबें. 3-4 महीने बाद सर आपने इतना जो पढ़ाया था इसमें से ये छोड़ सकता हूं क्या? You know? So this is what starts happening, that gradually the system starts getting tired, the loopholes start getting exposed, you know, and then we start doing badly. So remember, 51 to 66, the problems were there, but not highlighted and not that strengthened as they were post 66, depending on the kind of bureaucratic system, political system, economy that we created, and the vested interest groups that developed. Understand that also. There are vested interest groups which develop gradually. So everything is like a life cycle hypothesis. It would go up and then come down. So this was the coming down phase that public sector was facing. All right, we take the second point up then. No, this is not the sixth point, Jagrati. This is the second point on reasons for India declining between 66 to 80. Don't take it as license, Raj Ankit. All right. Commercial orientation means profit-making orientation. Imagine when I'm teaching you right now, I can have a social orientation, doing as much benefit as I can to my students, but I will have a commercial orientation because all of you students have paid your fee to sit here. So my relation with you is not only a teacher-student relation, but also a client-professional relation. and I will be a fraud if I don't implement it properly. So that's a commercial orientation. आप आप सबको समझ में आना चाहिए, जब आप सरकार में जाएंगे, ईश्वर करें आप जाएं और सैलरी लेंगे, तो आप कोई सोशल सर्विस नहीं करेंगे, आप पैसे लेके काम करेंगे. तो अपने आप को कभी भी भगत सिंह पर समझने की भूल मत करिएगा कि नहीं मैं तो देश की सेवा कर रहा हूं. कर रहे हो लेकिन पैसे लेके कर रहे हो, फ्री में नहीं कर रहे. मैं आपको हेल्प कर रहा हूं लेकिन पैसे लेके कर रहा हूं, फ्री में नहीं कर रहा. और ये समझ सबसे पहले मुझे होनी चाहिए. मुझे होगी नहीं, मैं एक इनडिसिप्लिन्ड परफॉर्मर बनूं, खराब प्रोफेशनल बनूं, और तब बाई चांस आप में से किसी ने एक दिन कह दिया कि सर हमारे पैसे हमने दिए हैं, तब मैं बुरा भी मान जाऊं. ये क्या बात हुई, तुमने ऐसे क्यों कह दिया मुझे, मैं वो नौबत ही ना आने दूं भाई. So that is my point, that commercial orientation means that you are talking about making a public sector perform in a manner where they are commercially viable. They are earning enough so that you can put money into them, you can upgrade them, you can modernize them, the profit can be used for welfare of the people. So commercialization is that, produce a surplus, earn profit, make yourself viable on your own. All right, that actually reminds me, we will be sharing 2 numbers with you by today evening, apart from mine and Sandeep sir's, of course, which you have access to. If you have any problems related to, especially online people, related to functioning of a camera or functioning of digital things, do call these numbers. And if the numbers don't get picked up, do let me know. All right, that's important. आपकी कोई भी दिक्कत आए, कहीं भी परेशान हो, तो मुझे बताओगे ज़रूर. क्योंकि कभी-कभी अगर मुझे ही नहीं पता, तो मैं कैसे एक्शन ले पाऊंगा. So feel free to let me know that, sir, we are struggling in this, if we could be helped in that. All right, so do that. And second, have faith, you will be helped. That has to be done. It's our job to help you. तो ये जरूर दिमाग में रखोगे. कोई कहीं भी स्ट्रगल करते हो, कोई दिक्कत आती है, नहीं बात हो पाती है, बताओगे जरूर. और आधी बात नहीं बताओगे. अगर तुमने 2 क्लास मिस की और उसके वीडियो चाहिए, तो ये नहीं बोलोगे सर मेरा वीडियो अपलोड नहीं हो रहा. ये आधी बात हुई. बोलोगे सर मैंने 2 क्लास मिस की, तीसरी भी मूड में हूं, अब अगर ये वीडियो मुझे मिल जाए तो मैं कम से कम बाद में देख पाऊंगा, मुझे पूरी बात की खबर रहेगी, तो मैं जरूर मदद ही करूंगा. Just to convince you, I'm not saying this for any other reason, that you are my children like my biological children are. मेरे बेटे जो हैं बड़े वाले, वो एक बार अपने गर्लफ्रेंड के साथ आ रहे थे मेरे लेन के पीछे, और मैं भी वहीं जॉग कर रहा था. और अब मुझे बड़ा अजीब लगा कि मैं जॉग करता हुआ आऊं, उनको देख के यू टर्न मार के दौड़ने लग जाऊं. I knew that he has a girlfriend. He's a grown-up fellow. He's in second year college. In those days, he had just passed his 12th. But I knew that he was going along, and they were study together. And he had told me all this because we have had that freedom at home. The mother doesn't know, but but I would be knowing that. Now, I am running across, and these guys are walking, and this fellow is not even looking at me. I felt very bad that father and son will cross and won't even say hello to each other. And I felt very awkward that I turn around and start running in the opposite direction. And this fool, he knows very well which is my route of taking my jogging. So I don't know why he was and what he was doing. Maybe the girl didn't know me. And they were walking together, they came close. When we were 20 meters odd apart or 10 meters, I looked at him, मैंने कहा और बेटा पापा कैसे हैं? और ये भी मुझे देख के बोल रहे हैं ठीक है अंकल. मैं बेटा घर आ बताता हूँ अंकल तुझे मैं. But I believe youth is to do things which should be done when you are your age, and I trust you all enough, and believe you me on that, I trust you all enough to know that you are conscious people who know your duties. And I'm not saying it to please you, believe me, I do. I trust my students कि तुम conscious हो, तुम्हें अपनी duties पता है. उस process में तुम 4 काम कर सकते हो या तुमसे कुछ गलती हो सकती है. हमारा काम उन गलती को हाईलाइट करना नहीं है. हमारा काम यह है कि कैसे फिर उसके ऊपर अब जो उस गलती की वजह से दिक्कत आई है उसे सॉल्व किया जाए. कि अगर तुमसे कुछ मिस्टेक भी हो गया, हाउ टू सॉल्व दैट मिस्टेक rather than or improve upon the situation rather than shouting at you that why did this situation arise. Situations will arise. I mean, I am getting to 48 in another 5-6 months. I still do my errors. So I can't believe that you won't do your errors at say 20 to 25 age group. You got to do errors. I mean, if you're not doing errors, then please come to me. You are the Kalki avatar we were looking for. So go ahead, do your errors. I don't mind that. But just make sure that I'm kept in the loop. कि मुझे पता तो रहे कि बच्चा ये चीज़ हुई है तो मैं आप प्रॉपर हेल्प कर पाऊंगा. बट मैं फिर रिपीट कर दूं, वी विल बी शेयरिंग 2 numbers with you. Any problem, do help, take help. Sandeep sir is always there. You can take his help at the rate Sandeep08 on Telegram, or you can send your message to me. But if something gets unresolved, do let us know. All right, anything related to any problem. All right, let's see this further. What was this problem of licensing? Please understand this now. Licensing was introduced assuming this will lead to control on entry so that there can be better allocation of resources. But what started resulting was, now we needed license to not only enter the market, license was needed to expand, and license was also needed to exit. अगर आपको अपनी कंपनी बंद भी करनी थी तो सरकार से परमिशन लेना पड़ेगा. And now going bankrupt due to that became a business in India. People would misuse these provisions. People would deliberately pay bribes to enter, use nepotism to enter. They would deliberately create larger amount of capacity than what was permitted, and then supply through the black market. You know, all this was done by paying off the government or being on the right books of the government, and then going bankrupt. I'll tell you how. Suppose I am a corrupt businessman and you are my corrupt bureaucrat friend. Now I use your influence. 1969 has happened. Banks have been nationalized. I use your influence and I take loans from the bank. All right, I use your influence and I take loans from the bank. Say 5 crore rupees. Out of this 5 crore rupees, 2 to 3 crore rupees I siphon out straight away. Some in your pocket, some in mine. Then with the rest 2-3 crore rupees, I will buy a land, I will buy some machine, I will create a factory, I will start running a business, and I will run it poorly. Now, since I run it poorly, I'm not interested, I'm taking more loans on my business, I'm taking more loans on my raw material and all, everything I'm doing. I'm not paying my workers on time. Then one fine day, my company goes bankrupt. I go to the government and I tell them, look, I am bankrupt. Now, according to the rules in India in those days, the government would give my case to its own Director General of Company Affairs, and this Director General of Company Affairs will study my case. This whole study thing would take 8 to 10 years, and I am living happily now because I am bankrupt. I can't pay anything to anyone. तो मेरे creditors अब भुगते हैं जिन्होंने मुझे लोन दिया, मेरे workers भुगते हैं जो मेरे यहाँ काम कर रहे थे. So those who were working for me are in trouble. Those who had given loans to me are in trouble. Those who were my suppliers, who had supplied commodities to me on credit, are in trouble. And the government itself, which will owe taxes, which I owe taxes to, is in trouble. I am happy now because in any case, I've taken a lot of loans on the company. Even if you seize my company, I have nothing to lose. Finally, after 10-12 years of deliberation, that is what will happen. 10-12 साल की बातचीत के बाद अंत में सरकार बोलते थे, we are nationalizing this company, we'll take it over. And the newspapers will have a headline, the capitalist has been punished, government takes over their property. Which property? What was left in that property? The fellow had already taken multiple loans, etc. on that. You know, so going bankrupt had been a business. In case you feel, my God, sir, all this was happening, wasn't anybody looking? Yes, the way Kingfisher happened. Vijay Mallya ji took a 9,000 crore rupees loan from SBI and then takes another 3,000 crore rupees loan from the same SBI-led consortium when he had already defaulted on 8,000 crore rupees of loan. This is how money was given in those days. This was how money was given even later. He was an influential person. Don't forget he was the member Rajya Sabha. He was an influential person, misused the provisions, ran the company badly. The company goes bankrupt. Now the rules changed in India and it became a criminal offense in 2013 companies law. Hence he ran away. Otherwise he would have gone nowhere. He would have stayed in India like many others did before him. You know, they didn't even leave India. They knew that, oh, this is allowed in India. We'll do, langar chal raha hai. And the banks will not even maintain the record of defaulters. That was India till 1991. That banks had no list of who had defaulted. Many banks did not have even a list of how much has been defaulted. That is how we were running our system, again on public money. So going bankrupt, I repeat, was a nice business. Start a business, misuse it, sell off take money on everything from the market, raise it. Also remember, there were not days of core banking. तो computerized नहीं था सारा कुछ. तो मैं एक बैंक से लोन लेता था एक असेट पे, और उसी असेट पे दूसरे बैंक से भी लोन ले लेता था। क्यों, कैसे मिल जाते थे मुझे ये लोन? इसलिए मैंने विजय माल्या का एग्जाम्पल दिया, मैं इन्फ्लुएंशियल था। So I'll take loan from one bank, I'll take loan from another. I'm supposedly a rich, influential person, hence I named Vijay Mallya. And I'll keep getting money. While as a common man, if you go to take loan from the bank, they will keep making you run every day. Bring that paper and bring this paper and bring along and bring your address proof, bring your income proof. And finally you had to pay a bribe to get that loan. So this was bad structure that we were developing. My point was that. And that is what was making our industries uncompetitive. So you write within that, rigidity was introduced. Rigidity was introduced not only in entry into the market, comma, but also for expansion of the firm, and even to exit from the market, full stop. It was influenced by nepotism, NEPOTISM. nepotism का मतलब होता है भाई भतीजावाद. Nepotism and bribery. In a bracket you write rent seeking. This is the euphemism that we use for bribery. All right, so whenever you see the word rent seeking, it is just a good word for bribery. All right, जब आप किसी खराब शब्द के लिए अच्छे शब्द का प्रयोग करते हैं तो इंग्लिश में उसे यूफेमिज्म कहते हैं, EUPHEMISM. ऑल राइट, ये एक यूफेमिस्टिक टर्म है ब्राइबरी के लिए, रेंट सीकिंग. ऑल राइट, जैसे आपको मुझे बोलना है सर आप मोटे हो गए हैं, तो आप सीधा कैसे बोलेंगे? तो बोलेंगे सर आप हेल्दी हो गए हैं. तो वो यूफेमिस्टिकली बात होगी. ऑल राइट, दैट इज द आइडिया. सो दिस इज another term. So rent seeking you will often read in newspapers, etc. That was bribery. Another thing, one of your friend asks me online that this decline in industry, was that a failure of Mahalanobis model? To some extent, yes. It was Mahalanobis model cracking. That with failure of industry, lack of growth of economy, we could see that the model was not delivering as good as what it had promised to. All right. In the same thing, in fact, हिंदी में भी घूस के लिए एक यूफेमिज्म है, उसे उत्कोच बोलते हैं. ऑलराइट, तो अगर कोई घूस ले रहे हो ये मत बोलिए तुम घूस ले रहे हो, उत्कोच मांग रहे हैं ये. बट एनीवेज, यू टेक दिस अप. अब ब्लैक इकोनॉमी पढ़ते पढ़ते सब सीख गया हूँ मैं. यू टेक दिस अप, देन यू राइट आफ्टर अ फुल स्टॉप, these led to rise in inefficiency. These led to rise in inefficiency due to lack of competition, comma, which removed the incentive for capital infusion, comma, technological upgradation, and cost cutting in the economy. So, lack of competition does that. Lack of competition has an impact where I know as an industrialist that my major focus should be on somehow getting the license. एक बार मुझे लाइसेंस मिल गया तो मेरे लिए कैप्टिव मार्केट है. कैप्टिव मार्केट मतलब 2 या 3 सेलर्स होंगे और कंज्यूमर्स को उन्हीं से खरीदना पड़ेगा. Once I have the license, I have a captive market. There will be only 2-3 sellers and consumers will be forced to buy from them. All right. So that was the situation in those days. So my full concentration would be on how do I get the license. In fact, there were incidences where people took licenses not because they had to produce, but because they did not want their competitors to get the license. So they would set up a dummy. मान लो मेरी एक कंपनी चल रही है, अब मुझे दूसरा लाइसेंस तो मिल नहीं सकता, तो मैं आपको अपना एक दोस्त मानता हूं, आपको बोलूंगा तुम लाइसेंस के लिए अप्लाई कर दो. आप बोलोगे अरे मेरे पास कहाँ है इतने पैसे, कंपनी कहाँ लगाऊंगा. और कोई बात नहीं, मेरे कुछ असेट तुम्हारे नाम से दिखा देंगे, मेरे पास बहुत काला पैसा है. Alright? So I show some of my black asset in your name. That's called Benami transaction. So I show some of your asset, my asset in your name. Based on that, you get a license. You are showing yourself as a well-functioning company and doing well. And I will use my connections within the government to get you the license. Now you have the license, you are my friend. I have the license for myself, maybe a couple of more people in the market, and that will mean I effectively control a lot of the market, and now I will start manipulating the market. There is no need for me to improve quality. There is no need for me to improve technology. So why will I infuse capital in my firm? This became India of 70s and 80s. And therefore you will see a lot of decline in those days in the quality of product. The quality was bad and the cost was high and the consumer was forced to pay that. Because they didn't have a choice. The point was that. And that does what? जब इंडस्ट्री की क्वालिटी खराब हो जाती है, कॉस्ट हाई हो जाता है, कंज्यूमर को ज्यादा पैसे देने पड़ते हैं, and if the competition is less, will I pay more to my workers or less to my workers? You see that? So now the workers are getting paid less, but the price is kept high to earn more profit. The cost of living is high, but the wage rates are low. Standard of living will go down. You understand that? So this is the basic idea. That is what started happening. 70s India, if you see, that is where you will see, you will see a lot of talks about growing unemployment, rising inefficiency, rising dissatisfaction among the masses. That was what was happening from late 60s, but actually kind of became huge by 70s and then till mid 80s. Then you write the next point, third point, that is, yes, I can. I said that if I do Benami transaction, all right, तो मैं क्या करूंगा, तुम्हें खड़ा कर दूंगा अपनी जगह पे लाइसेंस लेने को, मेरे कुछ असेट तुम्हें ट्रांसफर कर दूंगा, तुम एक अच्छी बड़ी कंपनी दिखने लगोगे. Now as I transfer those assets to you and you apply for license, मैं अपना influence use करूंगा within the government to make sure you get the license. Now what does that do? You have the license, I have the license, maybe a couple of more people have license. The competition is controlled in the market by me. And that means now I can manipulate the market by charging higher price, paying lesser wages, earning a profit. All right, getting supported by the system at times. Rich and poor, you mean? Yes, that is one cause of rising inequality. Because those who are better off are pretty better off. And they have all the means to make themselves even better off. And those who are left behind are not even getting a say. उनकी बातचीत तक कोई नहीं सुन रहे हैं. That becomes the challenge part. Yes. So, there was something between actual and shell. It was not that they would produce nothing, but they were not owned by the people who claimed they were owning it. In fact, there have been raids in India which have shown that people have registered companies in names of their drivers, in name of their maids, the helpers that is, and these companies are sometimes having a turnover in thousands of crores. So now these are not shell companies, they're actually having turnover. But the real owner is not the owner, वो साइन करते रहते हैं मालिक के कहने पे. और मालिक इनको खुश रखते हैं, बोलते हैं तुम्हारी 50,000 की सैलरी है, 1 लाख की सैलरी, बड़े खुश है, कितने दयालु मालिक है मेरे. पर जिस दिन कंपनी कुछ गलती करते पकड़ी जाएगी उस दिन ये जेल जाएंगे, मालिक नहीं जाएंगे. It went like that. Yes, yes. The tax part, they did pay tax, but again that depended on using the loophole in the taxation system. So we had several of them where you didn't need to pay taxes if you did few things. I'll teach you that. But there were methods by which you could have actually avoided paying all your tax. For example, in 1976, the total tax, the corporate tax rate in India was 84%. But then it was said that if you save all your corporate profit, you don't have to pay any tax. Obviously, everybody would show their income as savings. But in reality, the savings will then be used through different manners. All right. एक बात बता दूं पहले. Whatever you are, I'll just take a second. Whatever you are studying right now is an example of how stringent policy making is not good policy making. If you make the policies very stringent, very tough, it doesn't make for a good policy. It rather opens up a lot of loopholes by which people will use and misuse, and the whole soul of the policy will be defeated. All right, always remember that. That is the moral of the story. कि जब आप बहुत stringent policy बनाते हैं, वो पेपर पे लगता है बहुत तगड़ी policy है. अब तो बिल्कुल equality आ जाएगी देश में. But when that policy comes in implementation, then you realize that people are using the loopholes and people are using the weakness of administration to actually abuse their own the position of the others. So that is the point I'm trying to actually highlight to you. All right. Yes, I had few hands raised. Finally, no one. They did take a loss, and then the government would infuse more money into them. आज भी तो वही हो रहा है. इसमें आश्चर्य की क्या बात है? पब्लिक सेक्टर बैंक्स के अंदर 3,87,000 करोड़ सरकार ने डाले हैं पिछले 10 साल में, और इसको वो गर्व से बताते भी हैं that we have infused 3,87,000 crores in public sector banks, and we get happy listening to that. Oh, great, government is doing its best to survive, to make public sector banks get revived. We don't ask them, why did you need this money to be infused into them? What were they doing? Why couldn't they recover the money? Who gave these loans? You see that? और उस समय तो मैंने पहले ही बताया, रिकॉर्ड कीपिंग ही खराब थी, तो और बुरी हालत थी. All right? Yes, yes. कानून होगा ना. अब मान लो एग्जिट करोगे, अपना कंपनी बंद करोगे, तो जो ड्यूज है कैसे पूरा करोगे? इसके तो जैसे आज इंसॉल्वेंसी एंड बैंकरप्सी एक्ट है, तो एक कानून तो होना चाहिए इसके लिए. ऑल राइट. देन यू राइट द नेक्स्ट पॉइंट, यू राइट पॉलिसी ऑफ इंपोर्ट सब्स्टिट्यूशन. Policy of import substitution led to increase in inefficiency due to over protectionism. Okay, there are few questions online on the previous point. I'm putting the question and addressing it to all of you. One was that, was rigidity a way of avoiding competition from private sector for public sector enterprises? So that is one. Of course, there was a method of private sector being also discouraged from participating. But remember, already 17 industries had been kept exclusively for public sector, and the market was tilted in favor of public sector. So rigidity in licensing was just an added point to that. And another is that how can wages be reduced? Because workers will not have a choice if there is less competition in the market. If there are only 2-3 firms in the market, then the entrepreneur will be happier because they will know that workers can't leave them and go anywhere. So that is why wages were kept low, because of lack of competition. And another thing that I am asked is that can bribery be termed as faceless transaction? No, bribery is completely in your face, Venkatesh. People meet you, they take money, they have touts to do all this. And another question I'm asked is that, does that mean there was no proper PSU functioning in India? again, this is living in extreme. Always remember, even in the worst of situations, there can be no case that nobody will be functioning well. You understand that? Even in a disastrous campaign, some soldiers might have fought well. Always keep that in mind. So there were PSUs like Bharat Heavy Electricals Limited, there were PSUs like Indian Oil Corporation, which were doing comparatively better. There were PSUs like Steel Authority of India Limited, which were doing better. But then remember, whenever we talk on an average. And that on an average, PSU performance was declining in India big time. All right, that is what started happening in 60s to 80s. तो कभी भी मन में ये मत सोचो कि क्या सारे PSU खराब करेंगे. सारे खराब नहीं कर रहे थे, लेकिन majority अच्छा नहीं कर पा रहे थे. Prevention of Money Laundering Act is to prevent Benami transactions also. That is also a case. Monopoly is not same as monopolistic competition. Let me teach you micro, you will get me. Monopoly is a single seller, only seller in the market. I will be discussing shell companies with you, but you will have to wait on that. Shell companies are those which are only in the namesake, but they don't actually perform anything else. All right. Leave this on a telegram message for me, Amit Kumar. I'm answering your question. जो फुल एम्प्लॉयमेंट और मॉडर्नाइजेशन की बात है वो मेरे लिए टेलीग्राम पे क्वेश्चन छोड़ देना. अभी से ये मिलता जुलता नहीं है. ऑल राइट. Then another question is import substitution is done even today, and maybe the idea is that how come 70s were doing better. Now understand this. Let me teach you import substitution and the policies of 70s, and I will highlight to you how self-reliant India concept, this is Atmanirbhar Bharat, is different from self-sufficient India. They are two different concepts. Since there is a question, वरना मैं नहीं बताता, पर चूंकि ये सवाल आपके एक मित्र ने पूछा, that how is today's thing different from those days? In those days, we didn't allow FDI and FII. Today, we allow it. In those days, we were not export-oriented. Today, we are export-oriented. In those days, we didn't want to participate as an important part of global value chain. But today, we are showing everything that we want to participate as an important part of global value chain. So today, we are not saying we are inward-looking. We are not saying we don't want foreign commodities. We are saying that whatever we can produce better, we will produce better and become so relevant that others also buy from us, and then we become an important part of the global system. In those days, we used to believe we won't buy anything from anyone much, and we won't sell anything to anyone much, and we will remain inward-oriented. Don't forget, in those days, we were influenced by our big brother, the Soviet Union. जब आप छोटे होते हैं ना, तो बड़े भाई का, बड़ी बहन का जबरदस्त असर होता है हम पे. हम उन्हें हीरो मानते हैं अपने लाइफ में. मैं भी मानता हूँ अपने बड़े भाई को, अभी भी मानता हूँ वैसे, लेकिन बचपन में तो बहुत ज़्यादा मानता था. मुझे लगता है भैया से तो कोई गलती हो ही नहीं सकती. तो वो हीरो थे मेरे. पेरेंट्स की बात टाल भी जाऊँ 1 मिनट के लिए, भैया ने बोल दिया, अब तो मान लेना पड़ेगा. तो यही इंडिया के लिए सोवियत यूनियन थे, बड़े भैया थे हमारे. उनकी बात कैसे टाले? वो बोले ट्रेड करना बेकार, तो ट्रेड करना बेकार. वो बोले फिडेल कैस्ट्रो नॉन अलाइंड, तो फिडेल कैस्ट्रो नॉन अलाइंड. हम ऐसा मान के चलते थे. So we were a different ball game altogether. Thankfully, we changed post 91, tried creating something called our own identity. So post 70s again, the influence of Soviets was tremendous in India. In fact, you read a book called We the People, and if you read We the People, after that there is a second part to that book, We the Nation. These books were written in 1980s. They were written by a very eminent jurist, Nani Palkiwala. And these books contain a lot of details of legal and economic issues that India had in those days. And you will have to read it to believe it that this is how we were functioning as a country. कि ऐसा भी कर सकते हैं कोई, वो किताबों को पढ़ के आपको और अच्छा समझ में आता है. बट अगेन, जब टाइम हो तभी पढ़ना, अभी ज़रूरी नहीं है. आप पढ़ाई कर लो खत्म, उसके बाद मुझसे भी मांग सकते हो, बस वापस कर देना मुझे. But these are good books to read actually. Contemporarily they were written. Like today I can write a book about 1980s India, but that will never have a contemporary feel. But if somebody is writing a book about 1980s India and 70s India in 80s itself, it does give you that contemporary feel that, okay, what was actually happening, because in those days the writer did not even know what will happen in future. So then the suggestions and things are very different from what actually happened. तो ये जब हम किताबें पढ़ते हैं, थोड़ा डिटेल में जाते हैं, तो ये इम्पॉर्टेंट है जानना फिर, कि इन चीज़ों को जान के रखना, इनको स्टडी करके रखना, दिस इज इम्पॉर्टेंट. All right, anyways, coming back to my point to you now, how was import substitution harmful? It created 3 major issues. Please understand that. And I'll make you write it. आप समझ लो, मैं लिखवा देता हूँ. The first issue was it created shortage of raw material because many important raw materials we could not put on our own. हम खुद प्रोड्यूस करते नहीं थे और imports पे restrictions थी. So we would not produce those important raw materials on our own, and we would restrict imports, which meant there was a tremendous shortage of raw material at times, where the firms were ready, they had the capacity to produce, but lack of raw material, delay in getting permissions to import raw material would result in lesser productivity. The second challenge it created was it promoted illegal activities like smuggling, black marketing. किसी भी चीज की शॉर्टेज होगी, अगला स्टेप होगा ही ब्लैक मार्केटियर्स घुसेंगे. You create a shortage and the black marketeers will enter the market. All right. So black marketing and illegal handling of products, this would become very common. ये common होने लग गया. All right. कि black marketing के through पैसे आने लगे. Smuggling बहुत common हो गई इंडिया के अंदर, because gold smuggling and then electronic goods smuggling, component smuggling, all this became common and this became an industry in itself. लोग खुद नहीं करते थे, हायर करते थे दूसरों को, वो लोग करते थे इनके लिए, और ये लोग बिजनेसमैन बन जाते थे. That I'm doing a business, बोलते हुए थे मैं एक्सपोर्ट इंपोर्ट का बिजनेस करता हूँ. बट तो ये सारा कुछ चलने लगा हमारे यहाँ. That was the second challenge we had. And third was poor upgradation of technology because there was no learning by doing. It's only when you compete, when you see what others are producing, when you learn from what they are doing, you reverse engineer what they are doing. A good product comes into your country, then you reverse engineer it. Okay, how did they make it? Let's try learning that. And that upgrades us better. But that was not happening because we were not letting many things come into our country. And what does all of this do? Not only increases smuggling, but also increases shortages, which increases cost of production and therefore promotes inflation. So all that was the result of protectionism that we were following. I'm just giving you a write-up of whatever I said. Please take it down. You write, import duty was continuously increased. Import duty was continuously increased, and it reached an average of, import duty was continuously increased and it reached an average of 400%, an average of 400% in 1976, with highest import duty above 1000%, highest import duty above 1000% for several commodities. Full stop. It was also accompanied by quantitative restrictions. It was also accompanied by quantitative restrictions. In a bracket you write, complete ban, या तो पूरी तरह मना कर दिया जाएगा, वो कमोडिटी अलाउड ही नहीं होगी भारत में. Complete ban or import quota. Complete ban or import quota. I can believe you understand the term import quota. Government will fix a quota, only this much can be imported, and that import will also happen only through government given licenses. जिन importers को सरकार ने लाइसेंस दिया वो ही सिर्फ इंपोर्ट कर पाएंगे, और जितना सरकार कहती है इंपोर्ट करने को उतना ही इंपोर्ट होगा. Alright, so the ones who get the license are only allowed to import, and the amount government has fixed is the only amount which will be imported. When import is allowed only by licensed traders, that kind of import is also called canalization. C-A-N-A-L-I-S-A-T-I-O-N. Alright, like fertilizer imports in India, even today are canalized. C-A-N-A-L-I-S-E-D, canalization or canalized. तो जब भी आप पढ़ते हो ये बात, that imports were canalized. Canalized means the imports will be allowed only by a licensed trader and nobody else. All right? तो जब किसी commodity का import सिर्फ और सिर्फ एक licensed trader कर सकते हैं, कोई और नहीं कर सकता, तो उसे कहा जाता है canalization. All right, CANALISATION. So when imports can be done only by a licensed trader, that's canalization. All right, so imports were canalized in those days. In the same thing you write, this was imposed, quantitative restrictions. This was imposed on more than 8,000 commodities in India. More than 8,000 commodities in India. Full stop. It led to two major sources of inefficiency. Two major sources of inefficiency. One, it promoted illegal activities. It promoted illegal activities like smuggling. It promoted illegal activities like smuggling, which encouraged illegal transactions and black economy, which encouraged illegal transactions and black economy, and resulted in loss of revenue for the government. Loss of revenue for the government. I hope I reach you on this last thing, that government won't get the money that it would have got otherwise. And then second problem you write, due to this import substitution, it created shortage of raw material. It created shortage of raw material, and therefore increased inefficiency, in industrial production. All right. There is a question that one of your friend asks online, that is bankruptcy criminalized after 2014? No, willful default has been criminalized. If you are found to be a willful defaulter, then there will be a criminal case against you. All right. So that is the difference after 2009 itself, not 14. In 2009 itself, we declared that willful defaulters will be taken as a criminal offender. All right. Okay. Then you write the fourth point, fourth reason for India's lack of growth in 66 to 80. You write poor taxation structure, comma, led to lack of investment incentive. All right. मैं इसलिए स्माइल कर रहा हूं कि आप लोग जब ऑनलाइन होते हैं तो क्रिएटिव रहते हैं. आपके एक मित्र ने लिखा, सर हम ये नहीं बोलेंगे कि आप हेल्दी हैं, हम बोलेंगे आप खाते पीते घर के हैं. क्या कहाँ से टाइम निकालते हो तुम लोग ये डिक्टेशन के बीच में भी. ठीक है. So remember that what was this poor taxation structure? Again, I'll teach you taxation in India, and there we will cover everything from 51 till now. I'll just take 1 minute. Okay, you ask me, then I go ahead. There are commodities, but now the import duty, etc., has been brought down tremendously. Like today, average import duty of India is 15%. So compared to 400%, it's practically nothing. But yes, if you look at automobile, we still charge a tax rate above 100%. Even in those days, like one of your friend asks me that on which commodity were we charging 1000% and above. You will be surprised, some of the commodities on which we were charging 1000% and above were as small as a shaving blade. जो 1970s के जनरेशन थे वो जिलेट शेविंग ब्लेड और ट्विन ब्लेड सिस्टम जानकर नहीं बड़े हुए थे. तो अभी भी आप देखेंगे अगर घर में दादाजी वगैरह हैं तो वो पुराने वाला ब्लेड कभी कभी यूज करते पाए जाएंगे. उनका एक रेजर होगा जिसको ऐसे बंद करेंगे और वो ब्लेड से शेव करेंगे. सो दे आर यूज्ड टू दैट, बिकॉज ट्विन ब्लेड एंड ऑल वाज अनहर्ड ऑफ. People didn't know that all this exists. On automobile, the rate of tax imposed on second-hand automobile in India used to be 1500%. So that is how we were. और इन सब से होता क्या था अगेन, जब आप 1000% का टैक्स लगाएंगे तो स्मगलर को पता चल गया कि अगर मैं स्मगल कर लूं तो 1000% का प्रॉफिट होगा. तो वो कहते हैं 1000% का प्रॉफिट हो रहा है तो 100% कस्टम ड्यूटी वाले को दे देंगे. पकड़ने वाले तो वही हैं. और कस्टम ड्यूटी वाले सोचते थे कि 100% जब मुझे मिल ही रहा है तो 50% नेताजी को दे देंगे. In fact, again, you might feel I'm exaggerating, but 1989, YK Alag Committee was formed for gold smuggling study, and it found that gold smugglers in Mumbai had made themselves, Bombay in those days of course, had made themselves so well established that they would give in advance gold to police itself, not as bribe. Bribe will come separately. But ये गोल्ड क्यों दिया जाता था कि पुलिस ऑफिसर्स दिखा सकें कि ये उन्होंने पकड़ा है. और हमारे यहाँ जो लोअर एंड ऑफिसर्स थे वो और इंडिजिनसली दिखाते थे. सो इफ दे गॉट 50 kg गोल्ड दे वुड शो 5 kg इन अ डे काइंड ऑफ ओवर 5-10 days. So when the system becomes corrupt, then it becomes very difficult. See, what all do you learn from whatever I have taught you till now? Our system was encouraging those who were dishonest to break the rule and go ahead and do it. And then maybe you have a good chance of not being caught. But the honest would never do these things. So as an honest, you felt punished. You understand that? As a dishonest, you felt vindicated. तो ये दिक्कत ये थी और कोई बात नहीं. जैसे आज आपके कोई मित्र हो, वो कोई चोरी करें और उनको अच्छे नंबर आ गए और आप ईमानदारी से लिखे आपको कम नंबर आ गए, तो वो विंडिकेटेड फील करेंगे. कभी कभी आपका मजाक भी उड़ा देंगे, अरे तुम चोरी ही कर लेते. दैट इज द पॉइंट आई एम ट्राइंग टू टीच यू. एंड दैट इज व्हेन द वैल्यू सिस्टम गोज डाउन एंड दैट इज अ डीमोरलाइज्ड सोसाइटी. अंडरस्टैंड दैट. जब आप कहते हो ना डीमोरलाइज्ड है, तो ये डीमोरलाइजेशन है. मॉरल्स खत्म हो गए, डिमोट हो गए, डीमोरलाइज्ड सोसाइटी. एथिक्स का लेक्चर देख रहे हैं टेलीग्राम पे. Thank you for getting the joke. When you get my subtle jokes, I can't tell you. It keeps pleasing me till late in the evening. अभी आप मेरा जोक समझ गए, मैं गाड़ी में भी हंसता रहूंगा. मेरे ड्राइवर कभी कभी परेशान भी रहते हैं कि इस उम्र में ही अपने आप में क्यों मुस्कुराते हैं. इनकी तो उम्र भी नहीं रही अब, उनको पता ही नहीं है मैं क्लास की बात सोच सोच के हंसता रहता हूँ. बट दैट इज व्हाट हैपेंस. दैट्स अ डीमोरलाइज्ड सोसाइटी. कि जहाँ हमें पता ही नहीं है कि हम कुछ इलीगल कर रहे हैं. मैं कुछ टेलीग्राम ग्रुप्स में हूँ, कभी कभी लोगों को देखता हूँ खुलेआम ऑफर मांग रहे होते हैं, इनका वीडियो अवेलेबल है क्या. और आप आईएएस बनना चाहते हैं और इसी बात को रोकेंगे आगे चलकर. इसी को कॉपीराइट वायलेशन बोलते हैं. बन भी गए तो क्या बने सोचो. आईएएस के साथ साथ चोर भी बने, या तो उसकी प्रैक्टिस कर रहे हो कि सर मैं वो वाला आईएएस बनना चाहता हूं, अभी से प्रैक्टिस में रहना चाहता हूं. सो बी केयरफुल ऑन दैट एंड आई एम नॉट सेइंग दोज हु आर डूइंग इट आर नेसेसरली थीव्स. मे बी दे आर डूइंग इट बिकॉज दे डोंट इवन नो दे आर वायलेटिंग अ रूल. कॉन्शियसली, सबकॉन्शियसली दे नो, बट कॉन्शियसली दे डोंट इवन रियलाइज. कभी कभी कॉलेज डेज का फन कुछ लोगों को करते देखता था मैं तो आज बस में बिना टिकट ले आ गया. तो भाई तुमने चोरी की, इसमें कोई बहादुरी नहीं की तुमने कि तुम बस में बिना टिकट लिए चले आए. लेकिन सोचिए कभी कभी हम एंटाई अथॉरिटी बनने के लिए ये सब बोल देते हैं कि मैं तो टिकट नहीं लिया, और दो चार अच्छा कैसे नहीं लिया, क्या किया तुमने, अरे वो सामने से आ रहा था मैं ऐसे भाग गया. एडवेंचर की तरह बता रहे हैं उसको. So please understand this. That's a demoralized society where the society doesn't even know that my moral has been demoted. पता भी नहीं है कि मैं डिमोट हो गया हूं. लग रहा नहीं यही तो नॉर्मल है, यही तो करना चाहिए. So, but then imagine if the social system behaves like that, it becomes very difficult gradually for those who are moralistic to uphold themselves. It's a challenge every day. Sometimes your own family is challenging you. Why don't you do like others? What's your business of doing all this? And these guys are working honestly, day in and day out, self-motivated. And that is my point I was trying to highlight. That these self-motivated people who are working in the government, day in and day out, working honestly, are the ones because of whom this country is running. अगर आपके घर में ऐसे कोई हैं, मेरी तरफ से आज जाके गले मिल लीजिएगा, give them a hug, and मेरा टीचर कह रहा था, थैंक यू, आपकी वजह से देश चल रहा है. क्योंकि वही चला रहे हैं. लेकिन सोचिए उनको इंसेंटिव क्या है? फैमिली कह रही है तुम ऐसे क्यों हो? तुम्हें ही सारा काम करना होता है क्या? तुम ही सैटरडे को गायब रहते हो? ऑफिस में लोग कह रहे हैं अजीब खड़ूस आदमी है, घूस क्यों नहीं लेने देता मुझे? और वो खुद में बेचारे बस लगे हुए हैं कि नहीं नहीं नहीं, देश को तो तरक्की कराना ही है. That's not the country we dream of. So that is something we need to take in our hands. That I will not allow this kind of a thing. So I will call a spade a spade. अगर कोई है करप्ट तो बोलने में क्या दिक्कत है? भाई करप्ट हो तुम, और अच्छे दोस्त हैं तो मान भी लेंगे, क्योंकि करप्ट तो होंगे. मेरे एक बहुत अच्छे मित्र हैं, बताऊंगा नहीं नाम क्योंकि आपके भी सीनियर हो सकते हैं, बिहार कैडर ही मिला था उनको. उन्होंने कॉल किया, मैंने उसी वक्त दिल्ली स्कूल ऑफ इकोनॉमिक्स छोड़ा था. He called me up. He said, "Why did you leave Delhi School of Economics?" I said, "Look, the research opportunities were getting lesser. MIT was giving me a lot of research opportunities, and more importantly is what I used, and I agree to that. MIT was offering me 9 times more money than what Delhi School was giving me. So I thought I will do this up." And he said that, "Oh, money is not everything." I said, "True, but how come then with a 40,000 rupees salary you have a 2 crore house?" उन्होंने फोन रख दिया. मेरे वाइफ गुस्सा भी हो गए कि तुम दोस्तों से बात करने की तमीज नहीं है तुम्हें, तुम ऐसी ऐसी बातें कर देते हो. नहीं, ये मेरे 9th स्टैंडर्ड के दोस्त हैं, तब से हम साथ पढ़े. आज इनके पास जवाब नहीं है, जिस दिन जवाब होगा फोन करेंगे वापस खुद ही. दैट वाज द डे ऑफ होली. द सेम ईयर ऑन दिवाली ही कॉल्ड अप. ही गेव मी सम वर्ड्स व्हिच आई कांट टेल यू, दे वर अनपार्लियामेंट्री. व्हेन आई पिक्ड अप द कॉल, ये मैं क्लास में नहीं बोल सकता उन्होंने क्या बोला. तो पहले 4-5 शब्द तो उन्होंने वो सब बोले. उसके बाद बातचीत शुरू हुई, and he accepted. He said, "Yes, maybe I was on wrong track. Maybe I have been swept away by the events. That day I felt bad when you told me this, but later on I realized you are a friend. You have the right." हमने तो एक दूसरे को क्या क्या नहीं बोला है. तो ये समझा रहा हूँ आपको कि जो अच्छे दोस्त होंगे उनको वो एक्सेप्ट करेंगे, आपके साथ वापस आएंगे. और जो अच्छे दोस्त नहीं है वो तो ना ही रहे साथ, तो बेहतर है. चोर भी और अच्छा दोस्त भी नहीं. ऐसी क्या दोस्ती होगी भाई फिर? But anyways, just telling you that nation building is about character building. When characters are built well, nation gets built better. But character building is dependent on institution building, and institution building is dependent on the rules and regulations that you set in your system. So if the rules and regulations are set well and institutions are made well, then nation building happens much better. That is why India is not a Pakistan. No offenses to Pakistan, but just saying because they are collapsing today. Or India is not a Libya. India survived because we had some decent institutions, we had some character-built people who are still running the system with a lot of character. And that is my point to you. That but इन लोगों को फिर highlighted रहना चाहिए ना, इनकी तरक्की होनी चाहिए, ये forefront में रहने चाहिए, rather than इनको भी वही role मिले और इनको भी वही रुतबा मिले जो corrupt को मिल रहा है. ये तो गलत बात है फिर. That was my argument actually, if you ask me. All right. Now, you write within this. Now, I'm not teaching you taxation right now because I will teach you this separately, but I'm putting some points for you. So you write in that, there were 3 problems in Indian taxation system. There were 3 problems in Indian taxation system. One, lack of raw material, I said, Jasleen and Bhargavi, lack of raw material. Sorry, I'm so sorry. Yeah, just mixed it up. My mistake. All right. So you write 1, lack of raw material नहीं था वो. मैं आपके एक मित्र का आंसर कर रहा था. Sorry actually for that. You write first point in that, very high rate of taxation. It was to some extent, the indirect tax especially. Very high rate of taxation. And again I repeat, I will be discussing the details of this with you separately. So I'm not doing it right now. जब मैं आपको public economics पढ़ाऊंगा और उसमें public economics in India पढ़ाऊंगा, I will do an entire discussion of 51 to 91 taxation mechanism in India. But just to give you an example, very high rate of taxation, income tax rate for the highest tax slab people in India in 1976 was 97.5%. You know, so if you were earning in the highest tax slab in India, 10 lakh and above, your tax rate was 97.5%. Essentially, it meant that if you earned the 11th lakh rupee in India, then government said, give us 97,500. You will give the rest also. यही क्यों छोड़ रहे हो? ले जाओ ये भी, you know. But in reality, people would evade tax. Nobody would pay. People would not even reveal their earning as much. Would you believe this, that till as late as 1991, India had only 6 millionaires. पूरे भारत में सिर्फ 6 लोग थे जो क्लेम करते थे कि मैं 10 लाख रुपए महीना से ऊपर साल से ऊपर कमाता हूँ. तो और इतने से ज्यादा लोग तो आपको अकेले नॉर्थ दिल्ली में मिल जाते. साउथ दिल्ली की भी बात नहीं करूंगा मैं. तो ये हालत थी हमारी, क्योंकि लोग इवेट करते थे, ट्रांजैक्शन सही नहीं दिखाते थे. सो दैट बिकेम अ चैलेंज. ऑफ कोर्स सेकंड पॉइंट, यू राइट, वही कह रहा हूँ कि उससे ज्यादा तो नॉर्थ दिल्ली में मिल जाएंगे, 6 से ज्यादा जो 10 लाख के ऊपर कमाते थे. No, they were reporting their income at 10 lakh and above were only 6. All right. You write second, complex nature of indirect tax, complex nature of indirect tax, complex nature of indirect tax reflected in multiple tax slabs, reflected in multiple tax slabs. Slabs, you understand? 5%, 12%, 18%, that's a slab. Now, you would be surprised. We had central excise duty, and central excise duty had 6 slabs in it, 6. Then we had state excise duty. State excise duty had 9 slabs in it, minimum. That was in the state of Maharashtra. Otherwise, other states had more than 9 slabs. Then we had central sales tax, and then we had state sales tax, both of them having their own multiple slabs, at least 5 central sales tax slabs, and then again 7 to 8 state sales tax slab. Then we had entry tax, and then we had entertainment tax, we had octroi duty. So there were 49 different types of tax rates in India, indirect tax rates in those days. इसीलिए सीए इतने कम लोग क्वालिफाई कर पाते थे, क्योंकि एक तो इतने तरह के रेट्स थे, ऊपर से ये हर साल बदल जाते थे. Every year the government would make some small changes in these or large changes. So you write multiple tax slabs combined with, ये मेरी कुर्सी आवाज निकाल रही है, combined with frequent changes, combined with frequent changes in tax rate. And then you write third, too many exemptions, too many exemptions. Exemptions means if you spend here, tax will not be taken. If you spend there, tax will not be taken. There are too many such exemptions, you know. And therefore, what did people do? They would fake it. They would show fake certificates, they would show fake expenditures to show as if they spent in some places, but actually that was done mainly to evade the tax payment. All right, so too many exemptions resulted in promoting corruption. आगे बढ़ने से पहले आपको एक बात समझा दूं, ये सारी बात 1991 के पहले की हो रही है, आज के भारत की नहीं. All right, we are not talking about today's India, we are talking about India before 91. All right, today the tax rates are relatively lesser, today the slabs are relatively lesser, import duty is much lesser today, smuggling is not a big issue in India, you know, at the moment. So today we are talking a different India compared to what we talked in those days. I said smuggling is not a big issue in India, I'm not saying smuggling is not an issue in India. All right, अगर तुम adjective miss कर जाओगे ना, तो sentence का मतलब गलत हो जाएगा. All right, so I added a term big. It's not a big issue, but it's an issue nevertheless, but not a big issue in India the way it used to be in the early 70s and 80s. All right, then you write the, yes, So imagine if I tell you that, I'll just answer this and I'm coming to you. So I'm explaining the C part of taxation. If I'm telling you that you will get exemptions if you are spending money in a remote area. You will get exemptions if you are giving donations to a charity fund. You will get exemptions if you are setting up new factory in an underdeveloped region. And then what you will do is you may not actually set up entirely a factory. You will make a small building, claim it to be a factory, and take my tax exemptions from me. All right, that kind of a thing. Yes, yes. No, no, old times. That compared to the issue we had then, we don't have such a big issue today. Compared to the countries also, I think we are doing quite okay. The first point was very high tax rate, Ankita and Kashish. Import duty won't affect exporting, Shubhra, answering your. All right, question. The one question is what is meant by slabs? जब आप कहते हैं ना GST rate है 0%, 5%, 12%, 18%, 28%, ये अलग अलग slabs हो गए. ऐसे ही जब आप इनकम टैक्स रेट बोलते हैं 0%, 5%, 10%, 15% and 20%, 25%, 30%, these are different slabs of say income tax, GST and all right? And those slabs were multiple. Now see, what is the problem? Multiple slabs make it a complex tax structure. The problem is that too many exemptions make it a complex tax structure. All right. But right now, I am not explaining this point in its entirety. Let me teach you the taxation system. Let me teach you canons of taxation kind of theories. Once you know what are the canons of taxation, what is meant by a simple tax structure, you will be able to appreciate this point much more. And then you write one more, next point, that is, this is fifth point. Fifth point in reasons for problems in economy between 66 to 80. So fifth point, excessive market control by the government through administered price mechanism, excessive market control by the government through administered price mechanism. Administered price mechanism means when government will determine what should be the price and not the market. All right, that is administered price mechanism. That government determines what will be the price and not the market. तो demand supply decide नहीं करेगा कि price क्या होगा. Price will be determined by the government. So when government determines what will be the price and not the market, that is administered price mechanism. So administered price mechanism, comma, restrictions on output, restrictions on output. I was saying this day before yesterday, I hope you would recall that when we gave licenses, we fixed an upper limit up to which you could produce, and we fixed a lower limit up to which you could produce. And you had to be between these two limits. Now, you know, till 1980, this limit used to be, say if X is the licensed amount, then firms were told you cannot produce lesser than 10% of X. This is your lower side range. And you cannot produce more than 20% of X. इस range में रहने को कहते थे firms को. All right. Like suppose if this is 100 units, you got a license for 100 units, then the rule was you cannot produce less than 90 and you cannot produce more than 120. And if you violate any of the two, there will be penalty imposed on you. And then there were industrial inspectors meant to visit every industry to find out if this is happening or not. All right, so that became the challenge in those days. So administered price mechanism, quantity control, that is output being controlled, and restrictive rules like monopolistic and restrictive Trade Practices Act, comma, Monopolistic and Restrictive Trade Practices Act, comma, Foreign Exchange Regulation Act, Foreign Exchange Regulation Act, etc. Sorry, that's my Google Assistant. Okay, you take this up, then you write in the same thing, change the paragraph and write, all these policies led to industrial decline and per capita income growth rate at below 1% per annum in this time period. Full stop. The average per capita income growth, you can write PCY for per capita income. The average per capita income growth between 1947 to 1979 was estimated at 1.3% per annum, which was one of the lowest in the world, and it took India 32 years to double per capita income of the country. It took India 32 years to double per capita income of the country. Professor Raj Krishna named this as the Hindu rate of growth. All right, this whole story of India's per capita income growing at one of the lowest rate possible is what he named as the Hindu rate of growth. Now, before you turn militant, when he used the word Hindu, he didn't mean a religion. He meant people of India. All right, the geographical identity. And he was one of the few right-wing economists of those days. The paradox is even well-read economists like Sanjeev Sanyal do not know that he was that. In one of his interviews, he was saying he was a left-winger who wanted to divert us from the problem of left-wing policies, so named it as Hindu rate of growth. False, entirely. Professor Raj Krishna was a professor at Delhi School of Economics, had done his PhD from Yale School, had come back and was teaching in India, got frustrated with all this happening in India, and his whole thesis, this writing, was a big critique of left-wing policies of India. He was suggesting liberalization as way back as 1977. He was suggesting globalization as way back as 1978. And in his lectures at Delhi School, he would say this, that this is the way forward for India. It's a paradox that with less reading about such people, because the leftists won't record them, because they were anti-them, and today's writers don't know about them, so they will take them as leftists, assuming everybody in those days in India had to be a leftist. So they are living a paradoxical life. People like Professor Raj Krishna now know more, of course, but he called it Hindu rate of growth to highlight the rigidity of India's structure. He said the economic rigidity with license permit Raj, with so many, government control, social rigidity with communal tensions, caste-based tensions, and political rigidities with the disturbances of 70s. So he said all this is contributing to lack of India's growth, and he then kind of denigratingly named it as the Hindu rate of growth. I hope this story will remain with you. All right. So 66 to 80, this was the story that I had to tell you today. We will finish it up till liberalization as I see you tomorrow. मैंने आपको एक सेकंड लूंगा बस. मैंने आपको पर कैपिटा इनकम का यहाँ पे वैल्यूज दे दिए हैं. अपने टेबल्स को अपडेट करते रहोगे. एक बात सिखा रहा हूँ, आप सीख के ही जाओ. 1 मिनट और आपकी लाइफ का लूंगा मैं. I'm giving you the trends, all right, 47 to 66, 66 to 80, each 5-year plan. My suggestion will be, take a sheet, on computer or in your notebook, जहाँ भी तुम्हें comfortable लगता है, और उस sheet पे table बना लो, say GDP and per capita income and industrial growth and capital goods and consumer goods, intermediate goods, और 1951 से लेके जैसे हमने डिस्कस करेंगे हम लोग 1991 तक, ये टेबल्स फिल कर लो. ये एक पेज तुम्हारे पास होना चाहिए अलग से. सारे एनालिसिस तो रट ही लोगे, बाद में समझ भी लोगे, अपनी इंग्लिश लिख लोगे, कौन सी तुम्हें मेरी अंग्रेजी लिखने की जरूरत है. You understand that? You don't need my language. What you need is this data set that in case they ask you a question on trend, or points on trend, when you have made it with yourself, and if you see it, say, frequently, this will gradually come into your mind that, okay, this is the trend. You don't need to remember exact decimals, but the trend should be remembered. Try doing this, it will help you. All right, so I'll stay on this today. I'll see you tomorrow at 3, beginning from India after, 1980s. Yes, yes. Come over. Inflation between 47 to 79 was comparatively low, around 3.5%, Aditya, but a lot of it was because of controlled prices also. Yes, lack of investment incentive for private sector, Sujoy. Yes, black money circulation was high, Bhargavi. Tax incidences, who has to pay the tax? Devishan, I was answering your question. Corruption leads to black money, Bhargavi, but all corruption may not lead to black money. There can be, I scratch your back, you scratch mine also. Thank you, Divyanshi. Yes. So if capital output ratio is constant, then ICOR and them will be same. ICOR is incremental capital output ratio, so it's kind of delta K by delta Y. All right.
How can we relate free riding issue with the bad performance of public sector enterprises? Free riding issue.
Free riding issue in those days was not prominent. I'll just take 1 second. ये नंबर आपको वैभव मिलेंगे आपके टेलीग्राम ग्रुप पे. All right. Administered price mechanism is a feature of socialism, correct? Yes, you can use the service data when I give you the service sector discussion. Ritu. Tax incidence means that you are imposing tax on a system. Political instability is a reason, Chanchal, but not an economic reason, so we won't take it as an important part of our answer. Thank you, Ankita. I will be discussing the answer writing structure. Unfortunately, I was teaching you today. Tomorrow, I'll begin with the answer writing structure. Thank you, Rishika. Thank you, Jasleen. Yeah, please. Huh. Yes, yes. I was saying that Argentina, Brazil kind of countries were examples which had focused on agriculture and allied activities rather than industrialization, and then they lost the race to United States. Later on, even to USSR and Japan, which focused on industrialization. And that experience was in our mind. Same again, industrialized quickly. Industries first, yes. हाँ मैं 1 सेकेंड लूँगा बस, मैं बस ये ऑनलाइन का सिस्टम खत्म कर लूँ. Analysis of 4th 5-year plan, Ved Prakash, we will do separately, even though I don't expect them to ask you that. Thank you everyone leaving me here. Bye, Shubhra, thank you. Restrictions on output means that government won't allow you to produce beyond a limit. There is restrictions on output. Mansha, the heads are all things related to GDP, per capita income, industrial goods, and so on. Thank you, Simran. Bye, Shubhra. Thank you, Prerna. Thank you, Parmeet. Bye-bye all. I'll just say bye-bye to them and we go that side. अरे God bless you a lot. God bless you. Chocolate मुझे तुम्हें देना चाहिए वैसे कल लाता हूँ. Thanks all. Then I'll see you tomorrow 3 o'clock. Bye-bye.